Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our special coverage of the 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. I'm Li Dongning in Beijing.
And I'm Pan Deng. Today marks the final day of the two-day Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Economic Leaders Meeting in the Republic of Korea.
Right, and the historic city of Gyeongju is hosting world leaders from regional economies. And Chinese President Xi Jinping is among those attending at the invitation of his ROK counterpart, Lee Jae-myung. And in his speech at the first session of the meeting on Friday, President Xi called for APEC to jointly promote growth, improve people's lives, and champion open development. And the theme of this year's APEC meeting is building a sustainable tomorrow, centered on three pillars: connect, innovate, and prosper.
That's right. And the gathering also includes intensive policy discussions and initiatives ranging from advancing digital and AI cooperation to addressing demographic changes.
Right. Well, the Chinese President Xi Jinping says APEC has made the Asia-Pacific the most dynamic region of the world economy. And he made the remarks in his address, building an inclusive, open Asia-Pacific economy for all, at the first session of the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in Gyeongju.
On Friday morning, APEC leaders gathered at the APEC International Convention Centre in Gyeongju. Chinese President Xi Jinping was warmly welcomed by ROK President Lee Jae-myung as the session began. In his speech, President Xi highlighted that over the past 3 decades, APEC has driven the Asia-Pacific to the forefront of global economic growth. He warned that the world is now facing unprecedented changes and uncertainties, and stressed that APEC must pull together to promote growth, improve people's lives, and champion open development despite turbulent times. The Chinese president put forward 5 proposals to strengthen regional economic cooperation and development. First, safeguard the multilateral trading system. The WTO's authority must be strengthened, and trade rules must be updated to better protect the legitimate rights and interests of developing countries. Second, build an open economic environment. APEC must promote trade and investment liberalisation, fiscal and financial cooperation, and regional integration. This includes aligning free trade agreements such as the RCEP and CPTPP to advance the free trade area of the Asia-Pacific. Third, maintain the stability of industrial and supply chains, expanding common interests and enhancing physical, institutional and people-to-people connectivity are key to open development in the region. Fourth, advance digital and green transformation. Technology must be harnessed to remove barriers, boost trade and deepen cooperation in green industries and clean energy. Fifth, promote universally beneficial and inclusive development. Imbalances must be addressed and sustainable globalisation should be fostered. China will pursue high-quality development of the Belt and Road Initiative with various parties to achieve common prosperity. President Xi Jinping also reaffirmed China's commitment to an open world economy. He cited the recommendations for formulating the 15th five-year plan from 2026, which China will take as an opportunity to deepen reform, expand high-standard opening up, and create new opportunities for the Asia-Pacific and the world.
On Friday afternoon, a written speech by Chinese President Xi Jinping was delivered to the APEC CEO Summit held in Gyeongju. In the address titled, "Putting the Asia-Pacific at the Forefront of the Joint Endeavour for World Development and Prosperity," President Xi said currently the international landscape is fraught with changes and turbulence, and the world has come to a new crossroads. What we choose will profoundly affect the future of the world. We must have vision, step up our responsibility, and choose what meets the expectations of the people in the Asia-Pacific and stands the test of history. History attests that humanity shares a common destiny. While hegemonism causes only war and disaster, fairness and justice ensure global peace and development. While confrontation and antagonism breed only estrangement and turbulence, win-win cooperation proves to be the right way forward. While unilateralism precipitates division and regression, multilateralism is the viable option for tackling global challenges.
And President Xi Jinping stressed that China always upholds the current international order and practices true multilateralism. China has successively put forward the Belt and Road Initiative as well as the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, the Global Civilization Initiative, and the Global Governance Initiative. And they are China's solutions to the salient issues across the world based on Chinese wisdom. And next year, China will host APEC for the third time, and we look forward to working together with fellow APEC members to build an Asia-Pacific community and further boost peace and development in the Asia-Pacific and the wider world.
President Xi Jinping noted that APEC, founded in response to the trend of economic globalization, takes it as its objective and purpose to promote trade and investment liberalization and facilitation and support economic growth and prosperity. We should renew our commitment to the original mission and make outstanding contributions to the world through more vibrant and resilient Asia-Pacific cooperation.
And first, we should take the lead in safeguarding peace and stability. We must always ensure the equal rights of all countries to participate in international affairs, regardless of their size, strength, or wealth. And we should embrace the vision of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security and resolve differences and disputes through dialogue and consultation.
Second, we should take the lead in enhancing openness and connectivity. We should firmly safeguard the WTO-centered, rules-based multilateral trading system, strengthen solidarity and collaboration, and keep global industrial and supply chains stable and unimpeded. We should advance regional economic integration, push forward the free trade area of the Asia-Pacific, and play the Asia-Pacific's part in global economic growth.
And third, we should take the lead in promoting win-win cooperation. We should stay true to the vision of harmony without uniformity, fully leverage the diversity of Asia-Pacific economies, draw on each other's strengths, and jointly make the pie of Asia-Pacific cooperation bigger. We should foster an environment of cooperation to achieve success and development for all economies.
Fourth, we should take the lead in pursuing benefits for all and inclusiveness. We should put the people first and fully implement the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We should step up support for developing economies, bridge development gaps, increase people's well-being, and deliver prosperity to all the people in the Asia-Pacific.
Well, President Xi Jinping highlighted that China has been a major engine of world economic growth for many years. And during the 14th five-year plan period, the Chinese economy has registered an annual growth rate of around 5.5% on average, contributing around 30% of global growth. And China is the only developing country that holds a national level international import-expo and continually opens its market to the world. The China market is huge and promising. China can provide more growth opportunities for the global business community.
China is helping companies of different types of ownership to grow and thrive through fair competition. There are only 29 items left on China's negative list for foreign investment and 0 items in the manufacturing sector. China will continue to open the services sector and is universally recognized as one of the safest countries in the world. China can provide a good business environment for the global business community.
And China is vigorously developing future industries, strengthening emerging industries and upgrading traditional industries. Innovation is steadily driving the economy forward. China can provide a vast platform of innovation for the global business community.
China is making coordinated advances in decarbonizing, mitigating pollution, expanding green transition, and promoting growth. It has the largest renewable energy system and the biggest, most complete new energy industrial chain in the world. China can provide enabling conditions of green growth for the global business community.
Well, China is an ideal, safe, and promising destination for global investors. Partnering with China means embracing opportunities. Believing in China means being optimistic about tomorrow. and investing in China means investing in the future.
President Xi Jinping stressed that Asia-Pacific business communities are frontrunners of the times, pioneers of change and trendsetters of the world. It is hoped that they will carry forward the spirit of entrepreneurship, remain pioneering, open-minded, innovative and resilient, work together to promote Asia-Pacific growth and prosperity, and forge a mighty force to ushering a great future for the Asia-Pacific and the world.
Right, and Chinese President Xi Jinping has met with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on the sidelines of the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. President Xi noted that this year marks the 55th anniversary of diplomatic ties and the 20th anniversary of their strategic partnership, and he said relations are showing a sound momentum of recovery which serves the common interests of both countries. The president said China is ready to work with Canada to bring relations back on track toward stable and sustainable development to better benefit both peoples. He stressed the need for both sides to uphold mutual benefit, expand practical cooperation in fields like the economy, trade and energy, and increase people-to-people exchanges as well. And he also called for strengthened coordination within the UN and other multilateral frameworks. Prime Minister Carney said Canada's new government places high importance on its relationship with China and expressed a desire to achieve more results by advancing ties in a practical and constructive manner. Carney added that Canada is ready to maintain close high-level exchanges and promote cooperation in areas like agriculture, energy and climate change. On international affairs, he said Canada and China share similar visions and can enhance collaboration to practice multilateralism, safeguard free trade and promote reform of the international economic order. And the two leaders agreed to resume exchanges and cooperation in various fields, find solutions to economic and trade issues of multi-concern, and jointly promote the development of the China-Canada strategic partnership.
Chinese President Xi Jinping also met with Thai Prime Minister Anutin Chanvirakul on the sidelines of the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. President Xi Jinping expressed his deep condolences on the passing of the Queen Mother surrogate. He described China and Thailand as good neighbors, good friends and good partners. Noting that this year marks the 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties, President Xi said the two nations are at a new starting point. He called for deepening modernization efforts and enhancing contributions to regional stability and prosperity. President Xi said China is willing to advance cooperation with Thailand in key areas including railway construction, agricultural trade, the green economy and digital innovation. He also stressed the need for stronger measures to combat online gambling and telecom fraud to ensure a secure environment for cooperation. Xi Jinping added that China is willing to work with Thailand to promote the global governance initiative and safeguard the common interests of the global south. Prime Minister Anutin thanked President Xi Jinping for his condolences. He agreed that this year is a significant milestone for bilateral ties. Anutin said Thailand is willing to strengthen cooperation in fields like tourism, technology and trade. He said his country will continue to work hard to fight against the criminal activities, including online gambling and fraud. Prime Minister Anutin said Thailand is willing to strengthen multilateral cooperation with China to promote regional peace, stability and prosperity.
Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping has also met with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. President Xi emphasized that China and Japan are important neighbors. He said nurturing a long-term, healthy and stable relationship serves the common interests of both peoples and meets the expectations of the international community. President Xi said China is ready to work with Japan to uphold the political foundations of bilateral ties in line with the principles set out in the 4 political documents between the two countries, advance their strategic and mutually beneficial relationship and build constructive and stable bilateral ties that meet the needs of the new era. And he also stressed that relations face both opportunities and challenges. He also expressed hope that Japan's new cabinet would develop a correct perception of China and stay committed to peace, friendship and cooperation. And President Xi outlined 5 priorities for the relationship to flourish, honoring important political consensuses, pursuing win-win cooperation in areas such as high-end manufacturing, the digital economy, green development, and finance, promoting mutual understanding through exchanges between governments, political parties, and peoples, enhancing multilateral cooperation to build an Asia-Pacific community, and properly managing differences. Prime Minister Takaichi emphasized the significance of bilateral ties and said the two countries share a major responsibility for regional and global peace and prosperity. Takaichi said Japan is ready to strengthen communication, enhance cooperation, and advance their strategic and mutually beneficial relationship. She also reaffirmed Japan's position on the Taiwan question, stated in the 1972 China-Japan joint statement.
For more on day 2 of the 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, we go live to our reporter Zhao Yunfei and Shane Ham in Gyeongju. We come to you first, Yunfei. Bring us up to date and also tell us more about the reactions to President Xi Jinping's speeches on Friday.
Well, Pandeng and Dongning, we're here outside of the International Media Center. As you mentioned, this is the day 2, as well as the last day of the 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. And today we're expecting to see an outcome document. Questions remains and what are the contents in the outcome documents, how free trade is being discussed in the outcome document, and how sustainable development is being addressed in the document, how the leaders will talk about these topics. For sure, China has been advocating these agenda. According to President Xi's speech from Friday, from Thursday, President Xi raised the 5 proposals in which he upheld multilateralism and mentioned about the WTO rules. He also called on the APEC economies to build an open economic environment in the region, and himself saying that China has been actively following a high standard international rules when it comes to 22 pilot zones that China has. And especially the part when Chinese President Xi mentioned about the supply chain has received positive feedback from the paralleled APEC CEO summit, and a lot of the entrepreneurs in the Asia-Pacific rim says that supply chain is crucial for their businesses. Speaking of the CEO summit yesterday, President Xi also delivered a written speech at the CEO summit where he says that the APEC should take the lead to safeguarding peace and enhance connectivity. He mentioned in the speech about how China's commitment and opportunities can provide to the rest of the world. He said that over the past 5 years, China has contributed 30% of the world growth, and this year also concludes China's 14th five-year plan, which was the past 5 years. On the average, over the past 5 years, there was an average of 5.5% GDP growth domestically. So certainly a lot of opportunities are coming up. In addition to the multilateral events, President Xi also held bilateral events with prime ministers of Japan, Thailand, and Canada. Since this is the last day, President Xi's state visit in the ROK, so certainly we'll be expecting to see the bilateral meeting between President Xi and President Lee Jae-myung. And before that, President Xi will deliver another important speech in the second round of the group session here at APEC 2025. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Yunfei. Now let's turn to Shane Ham, who is also in Gyeongju. Shane, hello there. Well, yesterday was a busy day for the leaders attending the APEC Economic Leaders Summit. That was the round 1 of the meeting, and also a lot of bilateral meetings happening as well. Tell us some of the highlights.
Absolutely. It was a busy opening day here indeed at the Hwabok International Convention Center, which is behind me, just beyond the International Media Center. The day began with the meeting's chair, ROK President Lee Jae-myung, greeting representatives from the 21 member nations one by one as they arrived. Mr. Lee offered an opening address where he called for greater cooperation and solidarity across the Asia-Pacific, and he described this year's meeting as an inflection point as the global trade order undergoes rapid change, and that the technological revolution driven by artificial intelligence presents both new opportunities and challenges. He also urged APEC members to work together to ensure the region remains open, dynamic, and inclusive. After the opening session, there was a gathering with the APEC Business Advisory Council, and that targets and links issues between the public and private sector. And then the day wrapped up with a welcome dinner with special music and performances. But overall, the running theme throughout the day was that of a shared goal of keeping the Asia-Pacific open, rules-based, and cooperative as they look to navigate these economic headwinds together. Dongning?
Right, then Shane, what about today? We assume today is going to be another day of a busy schedule for the leaders.
Absolutely. Saturday here today marks the final day of the Economic Leaders Meeting. Representatives are expected to continue discussions on how to strengthen free trade, deepen economic integration. The focus will be on building consensus around a possible leaders' declaration, which must be adopted by all 21 member economies. Any declaration is non-binding, but it would send a clear symbolic tone of unity in the face of so much uncertainty surrounding global trade and other issues. Recent declarations have consistently reaffirmed supporting a rules-based multilateral trading system with the WTO at its core. So we'll be watching closely to see if that language is also contained in a declaration, if it is in so adopted. Following, President Lee is expected to hold a press conference after a customary group photo session time here. So it's clear here the diplomatic engagement continues alongside the formal agenda at this economic-themed gathering. Once the main session concludes, the APEC's chairmanship officially passes to China, which is scheduled to chair APEC in 2026.
All right, thank you very much, Xing Ham. And earlier, Zhao Yunfei reporting from Gyeongju, where APEC Economic Leaders Meeting is happening. You're now watching our special coverage on the 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. We'll be right back.
This year, the world comes to the ROK, where leaders of the Asia-Pacific charts a shared vision for a sustainable tomorrow.
To connect economies, ideas, and people.
Strengthening trade, investment, and digital links across the region.
To innovate, harnessing AI, digital transformation, and smart industries while bridging the digital gap.
And to prosper, tackling climate change, securing clean energy, and ensuring the growth benefits everyone.
From global policies to local impact, we bring you the visions, the challenges, and the breakthroughs that matter.
Follow our extensive, in-depth coverage of APEC 2025 on CGTN.
Our special coverage continues. Entrepreneurs say President Xi Jinping's speech at the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting have boosted confidence in regional growth. Zhao Yunfei reports.
Building a universally beneficial and inclusive environment for all, China's president reassured the 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting of his country's commitment to growth in the Asia-Pacific. Presenting 5 proposals on trade, Xi Jinping called for cooperation while highlighting the Chinese market's potential.
China has a lot to give the rest of the world. We think Canada as well benefits in its trade of what it can offer to China, not just in the commodities or in energy, but also increasingly in areas of technology, climate technology and others where we've had great partnership in the past, and I believe we'll continue to have that as we move forward.
Reflect on the changing global landscape and evolving technologies, President Xi vowed to advance digital and green transformation and called for the removal of barriers to cooperation.
I think it's important that countries learn to harmonize, work together, and sort of consolidate their capabilities, in particular with energy, and create more resilient supply chains for things that help power countries for the future.
We need a steady supply of solar panels, so supply chain interruptions are not good for business, and supply chain non-interruptions are good for business.
China is integrating its development into the Asia Pacific. President Xi's speech in Gyeongju called on relevant economies to shoulder responsibilities to improve people's lives. Zhao Yunfei, CGTN, Gyeongju, the Republic of Korea.
Chinese President Xi Jinping will continue to attend the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in Gyeongju. He delivered a speech on Friday, the first day of the event. And in his speech, President Xi called for APEC member economies to jointly safeguard the multilateral trading system, build an open regional economic environment, and maintain the stability and smooth flow of industrial and supply chains. And he also called for promoting the digitalization and greening of trade and pursuing universally beneficial and inclusive development. And this year's APEC meeting is being held under the theme of building a sustainable tomorrow centered on the three pillars: connect, innovate, and prosper. And also scholars and business leaders around the world discuss the significance of President Xi's remarks and what they could mean for the world.
I think what President Xi Jinping is suggesting here is going to be beneficial for business because it's supportive of a multilateral trading system. And I think that is what the world needs right now, is a multilateral trading system that is fair and equitable and allows all partnerships to flourish.
Il presidente Xi Jinping è senz'altro una delle personalità più importanti.
President Xi Jinping is undoubtedly one of the most important figures on the international stage today. His concept of building a community with a shared future for humanity is an innovation of great significance. His idea is not only a concept where both large and small countries can engage in dialogue on an equal footing and avoid being suppressed by powerful powers, but also a brand new international relations system. Because if countries can engage in dialogue and communication, create economic cooperation opportunities, and achieve win-win results, it is obvious that all countries will benefit and the well-being of their people will also improve accordingly.
Well, look, the speech emphasized economic openness, multilateral institutions, and both of those things are topics on which Australia agrees. So just speaking as an Australian, I think it would have gone down quite well in Canberra. I often think when it comes to trade, Australia and Beijing Canberra and Beijing have more in common than do Canberra and Washington. So look, I think it would have gone down well locally here for sure. This is obviously the dominant, the most vibrant region in the global economy, and China's at the heart of that, of course.
We also spoke to Dr. David Morris, a former Australian diplomat and vice chair of the UN Asia-Pacific Sustainable Business Network. He shares his insights on President Xi Jinping's proposal to uphold the multilateral trading system.
The Chinese president has urged APEC members to uphold the multilateral trading system and build an open regional economic environment. So under the current APEC framework, how would you assess recent developments in China-Australia relations?
Hello, it's good to be with you. Well, the multilateral system, the trading order and the entire international system is under a lot of stress at the moment. There are such changes happening in the world, and the utmost importance of upholding the multilateral system is front and center, I think, for most people around the world, certainly for businesses and for people, for society, as well as for governments. So for China and Australia, this is fundamentally important, to have an open trading system, to maintain what has worked so well for us in the Asia Pacific. In the last, let's face it, more than 30 years, we've had a very successful period of regional economic integration, decreasing barriers to trade and to investment, and that has served the people of the Asia Pacific so well. So we need to cling on to this at a time when there are protectionist pressures. There are pressures for major powers to think about their interests as coming first before others. Those of us who believe in the multilateral system, we really will need to make the case for why rules work and why shared goals work.
And now for more insight, we're now joined in the studio by Mr. Chu Qiang, a fellow at the Belt and Road Research Center at Minzu University of China, and also Ms. Wang Yaojing, Associate Professor of Economics at Peking University. Welcome to our special coverage on the 32nd APEC meeting. Well, as the world is becoming more and more volatile and fragmented, so we are seeing the rising trend of protectionism, but China is clearly on the multilateral cooperation side, and President Xi has called for multiple times for jointly safeguarding the multilateral trading system and also practicing true multilateralism. Then what are the core principles of this true multilateralism, and what concrete actions do you think APEC can lay on this ground, Mr. Chu?
Well, Dong-Ning, I think this is absolutely a great question, because in economics, I think we believe one principle that is called the counter-cyclical regulation, which means when the whole economy is slowing down and going downward, but you cannot just follow this trend, try to shut yourself down, do the protectionist, and then try to see all your neighbors and trade partners as the criminals or to fight against them. But on the contrary, I think President Xi Jinping and China actually advocated absolutely correct idea. You need to reach out even further and opener with a more transparent rule and welcoming attitude, so you can reverse the trend. You don't make the things worse, but you will make the things better and change the narrative and change the whole momentum. So I think that is a very important essence for the multilateralism. As you just mentioned, what is true multilateralism? I think number one is you really need to discuss everything among different partners on equal footing. Well, we used to have this kind of the CEO Western company kind of the style international trade, was just one boss telling everybody what to do and ignoring the real demand and the real rule. Well, in the West they do that before, in the USSR they do that before, and they both fail. Just take a look at the Cold War period of time. Shut down, just ordering, it doesn't work. It didn't work. But when it comes to the current stage, you see the true globalism actually are making the whole world grow, at least, especially for the past 20 years when China joined in the whole picture. And China always treated all the trade partners equally, no matter how big or how small you are. 5 principles for the peaceful coexistence, not only applying for the politics, but also applying for the whole global trade. And secondly is about the rule-based. We always try to use this kind of international organizations to coordinate our demand. You see, without this kind of rule of law, without this kind of the negotiating, systems, well, we probably will have the global trade downgraded from the level of fishmonger, from the charliemonger to the fishmonger. This is not going to work. And also, I think last but not least is like we will have all kinds of the connectivities. Well, you have this attitude, equal, treat each other with respect and transparent, sure, and a rule of law, but you need also infrastructures, connectivities among the hardwares and softwares. So that's, I think, the reason why President Xi Jinping is talking about we will have this inclusive development among all, but also we will have this innovative, digitalized, and green connections among all, so that we will have more efficient and more smooth understanding, talking to each other when our standard can be the same, when we're having the same cost, when we're more efficient, with each other. So I think above all these kind of the principles, I think we can truly achieve the multilateralism among the whole global trade system.
Indeed, working with each other means you got to uphold the spirit of openness, and President Xi Jinping has called for the building of an open regional economic environment. Professor, Mr. Chu just slightly touched upon one major barrier, that is protectionism. What are your thoughts on the major barriers to achieve this goal, and how the Asia-Pacific can actually work together to overcome them?
Well, one of the barriers is internal. Well, we know that in economic principles that even when some countries, they can do things better or more efficiently than any other countries, it's still beneficial for them to trade, because every country will have their own comparative advantage, so that we can provide, when they trade freely together, they can provide a more diverse product market, they can reach to more populations in their markets, and then they also provide cheaper goods because every country has their own comparative advantage. So these internal barriers within the economic region would be some of the tariffs that we're talking about. We're seeing that some of the tariffs are going very high because some countries want to, say, protect their own industries or for other political reasons. And the other barrier I'm thinking is the external barrier that some countries would, like Professor Chi just mentioned, be the boss and tell what others to do, even when this is not one of the regions that he's in, but he still wants to tell what to do.
Indeed, and let's get some updates first, dear guests. And Chinese President Xi Jinping is continuing to attend the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in Gyeongju. On Friday, he delivered a speech at the event. This year's APEC meeting is being held under the theme of building a sustainable tomorrow, centered on the three pillars: connect, innovate, prosper. Now, let's go back to our guests.
Right, and Mr. Chu, we touched upon APEC's role, APEC's function in integrating not only in the region, but also in the world, probably. Out of curiosity, before we delve into deeper questions, how can APEC function properly or correctly in dealing with global challenges? Because it is, as we just reported, all the declarations, all the agreements reached are not legally binding. They are based on conversations and dialogues, and they are consensus reached, not legal documents. How can they ensure that their ideas and their outcomes can be respected and adopted?
Well, I think this is actually a very interesting question. You see, APEC is actually a very important name. When I was a kid, just imagine how long that's been going on. But you see, according to the philosophy and the wisdom of China or the Oriental society, we have, the theory of the yin and yang, which means sometimes you're voiceless or you're very silent, but doesn't mean you're not growing into something important. So wax and wane. It's like what's happening with the APEC. You see, in the past, we have many this kind of the international organization. I'm not saying multilateral, I mean international organizations. For example, the G20 used to be very powerful, coordinating all kinds of the conduct in the whole world, and also United States, United Nations, of course, this can be also very, very important. But currently, those kind of multi-purposed or large country-dominated organizations are probably get weakening. For example, in the G20, we find out everybody are splitting with different ideologies, so nobody's listening to anybody. So G20 are actually not as important, functioning as important as before in the United Nations, because so many issues are getting involved in such one organization. So the focus can be divided. But APEC, on the contrary, actually are growing up to be a very important pillar in the international, governance. Why is that? It's because APEC is actually a business society-dominated organization. So you see, we have the APEC, the APEC Business, Consultation Council. So everybody are from the companies, or from the business, societies, or from the think tanks. So these people actually are not divided by the ideologies. It's not like which side you choose. You choose Gaza, or you choose this side, or you choose. No, nobody are talking about this. Actually, people only have one focus in here. We want to provide good living standard for our people. Right. We want to grow our business opportunity, and then that's it. So we still actually have lots and lots of people in the whole world. They don't want to get involved with this extra strings. They don't want to choose side. Look, we're just simple people. We want to have just some, good opportunities for us, for all human beings, because we have shared fate. We want to stay in peace and prosperous. So I think that's the reason why APEC actually functioned as one of the, still functions as one of the important international and multilateral organization to help to coordinate everybody, especially considering, APEC has another advantage is that it crossed the Pacific.
Right.
So whether you're from the West or from the East, if you have this kind of idea, you want to grow, you don't want to get involved with politics, you just want to treat each other equally with multilateralism, just come over here. And also there's a third change in here is that the main role which steering the whole directions and also contributing to the whole directions is changed. Global South nations have been rising up. For example, you'll be seeing ASEAN nations. It used to be a follower, even though been located in ASEAN nations, the APEC headquarters, the secretariat, but they're not been the leading force. But now ASEAN nations have been leading force. China has become a leading force.
Exactly, and in this changing context, let's be specific on trade, Professor. Well, we know China is the world's largest country in trade in goods and second largest in trade in services. Now, President Xi Jinping is calling for the advancement of digitalization and greening of trade. How can this be achieved among APEC, Asia-Pacific economies? Well, digitalization is a bit more straightforward, but what about greening? What does that mean, actually?
Well, for digitalization first, so I think Professor Chu just mentioned that APEC, we have this great advantage is that we have a shared or common belief that our goal is to make people's lives better. So digitalization provides this convenience for business to trade beyond borders that could, say, provide a digital payment platform that would enhance these transactions to go through within seconds of time. And you say greening, this also aligns with our common goal is to make people's lives better. I think most of the APEC countries would believe that keeping our environmental in a good condition is good for our people's lives and also good for a sustainable growth. So this greening in trading, we kind of go from the old way of trading where we kind of dump the heavy polluting industries in the developing countries and let the developed countries enjoy the final product without polluting their areas. But now we kind of go through this green process all along the supply chain and let everybody enjoy the green sustainable growth.
Right, and Mr. Chu, with the IMF warning that rising protectionism and fragmented supply chains could shrink the global economy by about 7%. And that's actually why President Xi has urged APEC members to continue promoting trade and investment liberalization. For example, what steps do you think APEC leaders can take to solve that problem or to rebuild trust in terms of trade, multilateral trade, amongst the protectionism trend?
Well, I think this is absolutely correct. Just imagine if the whole world has become what's going on between the Western economies and all the global South nations, I think this is going to be a disaster. Well, in the past 3 years, we were just talking about past 3 years, actually the global trade is growing at the speed of 2.5%. Because it's kind of a confrontation of frictions, you're waging the balance of the tariffs and the sanctions. We're not growing in a very good way. But on the contrary, if you take a look at what's still been really applying this free trade rules, for example, China and ASEAN nations, we have China plus ASEAN, we have ASEAN plus 3, and we have the RCEP. In these regions, actually, take a look at the numbers. It's all out there. It's all growing at the double-digit speed. Vietnam export probably about 14% in the past 3 years. Every year, 13%, 13.5%, and 14%. And Malaysia do very well. Singapore, just check their bookkeeping, doing very, very well. So it shows that we do not lack of opportunities. We do not lack of growth. But the thing is that how are you doing it? So this is very important. So I think APEC is doing a fantastic job with ASEAN nations, so with the Eastern Asia and many parts, on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. Why they're doing so is number one, like we just mentioned, uphold the banner of the multilateralism. We know this is kind of a big talk, it's a big idea.
But complicated idea as
well,
because
complicated.
The world is, part of the world is not welcoming it.
Well, actually it's not that difficult. So what is, in a simpler way, what is multilateralism? So trade is like free will. You want to buy something, I have something, I will sell you. If you don't like it, just don't buy it. Well, but something is like, we have to give you a fair price, and we have to tell you transparently what about this thing is. And when we pay money with each other, we have to, according to the rule of laws. Right. And that's it. And if you really respect this kind of simple system, and everybody can form this network of this simple system, the economy grow. And secondly, if the whole world is shutting down because of lack of opportunity, maybe there are geopolitics somewhere, you don't want to do things like that, fine, we can form some remedies. Let's say regional arrangement like the RCEP, like the partially of the CPTPP, like the ASEAN +3, like China-ASEAN region FTAs. So we can still make things work within certain region. This is also another thing.
So this can be achieved.
Yeah, it can be achieved. And also, last but not least, like just Professor Wang just mentioned, digitalization and the green. This also...
Indeed, if we take it from a pure business perspective, it's not only about how many countries, how many end users we're trading, it's also about turnover rate that matters critically, right, for business. So digital technology can help a lot. That's why President Xi Jinping further called for making digital technologies a strong catalyst for cross-border trade. Well, digital technology might be just a few taps away for end users, but we know actually it requires very, very huge investment in physical infrastructure. How can the Asia-Pacific work together on this?
Well, it looks like today's world, digitalization or AI, because these have very cheap cost to reproduce and requires, like you said, very heavy investment or an initial investment. So that kind of becomes a way of more efficiently doing it is to have one leader in making this investment that is public use for all the members. And I think China is taking this initiative and working with other countries to lead in developing this infrastructure. And then other countries can join and freely, openly use this infrastructure platform and enhance their connectivity, both in physical and also in digital forms.
Well, guests, we'll be getting back to you for insights on this later. Continue our coverage on the sidelines of the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. The concurrent APEC CEO Summit is enhancing connections within the Asia-Pacific business community. Members of the Chinese delegation have stated that President Xi Jinping's remarks have greatly boosted their confidence in expanding further into regional markets.
习主席在 APEC 会议中提到的5个建议，给企业家增强了信心。我是来自半导体行业的代表。
President Xi's 5-point proposal at APEC has given entrepreneurs even greater confidence. As a representative from the semiconductor industry, I believe semiconductors are central to the new quality productive forces and fit perfectly into the 15th five-year plan. The sector is bound to have vast room for growth. I intend to deepen cooperation across the Asia-Pacific, contributing more to the development of new quality productive forces, stronger supply chains, and advances in artificial intelligence.
发展心智生产力、人工智能以及贸易数字化、绿色化，做出更多的贡献。
习主席的5点建议中提到了维护多边贸易的体系，这对我们
Among President Xi Jinping's 5 proposals, the pledge to safeguard the multilateral trading system is of vital importance to traders. International trade, particularly with China and Republic of Korea, has in recent years been greatly impacted by tariffs and other non-market forces. As the world's top trading nation, China's proactive defense of the multilateral system and of stable supply chains is a powerful stabilizer for traders everywhere and for the global economy as a whole, including within APEC.
对包括 APEC 在内的全世界经济都是一个强大的稳定剂。
习主席在 APEC 上提出的5点建议，对我们有着非常大的鼓舞作用。我是来自文化行业的代表。
President Xi's 5 proposals at APEC have been a great source of encouragement for us. I am from the cultural sector. My company, One Step, One Realm Culture and Tourism IP, specializes in integrating cultural tourism IP. We use cultural tourism to empower trade. President Xi's call for an open economy and the cultural powerhouse goal outlined in the 15th five-year plan adopted at the 4th plenum have given us great confidence. We believe that Asia-Pacific cultural exchanges will be a key driver of our growth. Under President Xi's 5 proposals, we are confident that cultural development will enjoy a flourishing future.
我们非常有信心，在习主席的5个建议的指引下，文化行业一定能有更加繁荣和强大的发展。
Well, Chinese President Xi Jinping's message at the APEC CEO Summit in the Republic of Korea has called for greater cooperation and openness amid a global economic uncertainty. Well, the speech reaffirmed China's commitment to shared growth across the Asia-Pacific. And earlier, we spoke to participants at the summit to hear their reactions.
So there is a reason to believe that if things continue in the direction that we're going, just maybe we're restoring some global order to the trade policy architecture that is in the WTO, and so there's some opportunities there to build confidence.
I think the key takeaway is that it's strengthened global confidence in China and shown China's openness to the world.
也希望亚太工商界能够积极参与。
We hope the Asia-Pacific business community will actively explore cooperation in AI, healthcare, and green transition, driving deeper regional trade ties and fueling global growth.
Well, I'm seeing for a greater degree of collaboration between the United States and China, more commercial interactions together. So I think it'll be a great venue for the countries to interact together and to also invite the rest of the world.
The global economy's center of gravity is the Asia-Pacific, fueled largely by China's growth. Here are some key numbers.
The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation is a premier economic forum for the region. It represents 2.9 billion people, or 38% of the global population, and drives 60% of the world's GDP. Nearly half of all global trade, over $20 trillion flows through this bloc. This integration is strengthened by frameworks like RCEP. In 2024, RCEP trade hit $5.7 trillion. The bloc attracts over 30% of global foreign direct investment, and the IMF projects it will contribute nearly a third of global economic growth by 2030. China is central to this engine. Nearly 58% of China's foreign trade is with APEC economies. As a key builder, China is strengthening regional infrastructure through projects like the China-Laos Railway and has established 119 science and technology cooperation agreements. Through platforms like the China-ASEAN Expo, cooperation is shifting from simple trade to full-chain innovation. Ultimately, with initiatives from Peru's Chansi Port to electric bus systems in Latin America, China is actively contributing to a more sustainable and inclusive future for the entire Asia-Pacific.
Chinese President Xi Jinping is continuing to attend the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in Gyeongju. And on Friday, he delivered a speech at this event. This year's APEC meeting is being held under the theme of building a sustainable tomorrow, centered on the 3 pillars: connect, innovate, and prosper. And in his speech, President Xi called for APEC member economies to jointly safeguard the regional economic environment.
Now, for more insights, let's go back to our guests in this studio. So earlier we were talking about the importance of upholding true multilateralism and safeguard multilateral trading system with the WTO at its core. How can the Asia-Pacific member economies work together to maintain the center role of WTO, which is currently challenged very much by some turbulent factors, Professor Chu?
Well, I think in the past few years, actually, WTO has been sometimes been sidelined. Why is that? It's because, number one, I think the rise of the hegemony powers in the global trade has been there again. The reason why we have the WTO in the first place is we want to build this kind of the forum, rule-based forum, which we can discuss with each other about the conflicts and the differences in the trade. Well, you have differences, this is pretty much normal, but the thing is that how can we treat each other equally and discuss about the things and solve the problems, instead not being, dictated by some strong powers to say, okay, you are not a fair trader, I'm going to punish you. If you don't want to buy this, I'm going to force it on you, or force it, you cannot buy it. So I think this is not market economy. Market economy is basically like we just learned trade 101 economics is that you have to have the signal of the prices, like the prices decided supply and demand. So the whole thing is going to work. Trust me, we have learned lessons if you do not have the free market. We are doing it right now. I think most of the countries in the APEC, societies are doing it, but some other countries don't want to do it. So they sideline the WTO. And secondly is that many of the traders get involved, so sometimes it becomes very, very time-consuming and costly to discuss all kinds of the rounds with different trade partners. So many other regions actually choose to use what we call the regional remedies to solve the problems, like we have the RCEP or the trilateral or several lateral kind of the treaties to discuss with the things. Well, it's kind of a functioning for sure. No accuse about that, but it shows that because the overall picture is not functioning, so you have to bypass the system and solve the problems. Well, it's been good, but we still need to come back to what we had, in the first place. So we need to uphold the WTO. We should still, continue with the Doha round. We have all this kind of the full around discussions to make sure the whole globe come back again on this network on equal footing and discussion and rule of law.
With that being said, Mr. Chu, with all the agreements and consensus reached by APEC is functioning in the right way. My question is, 2 decades ago, APEC's Busan roadmap pushed for a free trade area of the Asia Pacific, but now we have a lot of agreements like that, RCEP and CPTPP, etc., etc. Is it too crowded for all those agreements? How do member countries harmonize all those agreements together to move forward?
Well, to answer your question, are there too many of them? I would say no, there are not too many of them for now, because right now the countries may have differences in their opinions about trade, or there are differences in their resources, so that we have those detailed agreements with each group of countries to tailor the specific needs of those countries. But of course, like Professor Chi just mentioned, at the end of the day, it should be a one for all, like the WTO founded in the first place, the one for all and one free trade agreement for all countries in the world. That's the ideal situation.
Thank you very much, dear guests, Professor Wang Yaojing and Mr. Chu Qiang there.
And with that discussion, we end this hour's special coverage of the 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in Gyeongju in the Republic of Korea. I'm Li Dongning in Beijing.
And I'm Pan Deng. As the second session of the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting is underway, we'll keep you updated on that important gathering of the Asia Pacific.
So stay tuned.
On today's APEC 2025, Connect and Act on World Insight. As this year's APEC Economic Leaders Meeting draws to a close, time to take stock of the outcome from New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, the APEC Secretariat Executive Director, the President of the U.S. National Center for APEC, and the Chairman of the world's biggest battery maker, CATL. And the cutting edge of advanced technology in brain-computer interface and highly functional robots. Here where the high-tech future lies, from the founders of BrainCo and Unitree Robotics.
Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei, in Gyeongju, Republic of Korea, for the latest update of the APEC Economic Leaders Week. Let's connect and act. The 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting opened Friday. Chinese President Xi Jinping delivered an important speech at the meeting. Meanwhile, the Chinese president joined bilateral meetings with leaders from the Asia-Pacific region. Chinese Minister of Commerce Wang Wentao went to deliver his speech on behalf of the Chinese president at the closing ceremony of the APEC CEO Summit 2025. Also there, the ceremonial transfer of APEC chairmanship from ROK to China was held. Here are words coming from Ren Hongbian, chairman of the China Council for the Promotion of International Trade, at the ceremony.
So China always pays very much attention on the APEC issues. And Chinese government also attaches great importance to the multilateral trading systems. And APEC is the highest level, most extensive, and the most influential economic mechanism in the Asia-Pacific region.
You're watching World Insight special program, Connect and Act. The APEC Economic Leaders Meeting is always an important occasion for business leaders to meet with political leaders and provide suggestions for better economic and trade growth and common prosperity. On these, I had conversations over the past few days with business and political leaders, including New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, the Executive Director of the APEC Secretariat, Eduardo Pedrosa, the President of U.S. National Center for APEC, Monica Hardy-Welle, and CATL Chairman Robin Zeng. And here are words coming from them. This region, Asia-Pacific, particularly with APEC, has been celebrating free trade and multilateralism for more than 35 years. Right. But now, of course, we have a lot of headwinds. So I want to have a reality check with you, Mr. Prime Minister, about what you think is the stage where we are, and as policymakers, what should be the right step? Actions, by the way.
Yeah, well, look, I think there's a few things going on. There's no doubt about it, the rules-based system is being upended, and it's a lot more contested, a lot more fragmented, and a lot more challenging environment out there in the global economy. I think there's three shifts going on. The first is actually a shift from rules to power, and we're seeing that with a lot of conflict that's existing in the world. I think the second big thing is the connectivity between prosperity and security. The two are inextricably linked. We've seen that with a number of conflicts around the world that actually have caused huge economic pain and suffering for citizens, and we actually need to be able to we can't have prosperity without security and stability. And the third thing I'd say is there's been a shift, I think, from we had very efficient global supply chains to now building much more national resilience and national industrial policy and protectionism. And so those are the three shifts that I observe, and that's a change in the environment. But within all of that, there is still tremendous amounts of opportunity, and it's up for each individual country to work out how it can compete and how it can win. For us in New Zealand, we're a small country, and we have felt that actually getting rid of tariffs and subsidies in the 1980s, the 1990s, has meant that our businesses are very fit, they're very lean, they're very competitive, and they go out in the world and they actually are world class and they compete very well. And for us, that is the right trade policy that we believed that we can work with.
Mr. Prime Minister, you mentioned actually in a very concise answer a lot of points. Tariff, for example, where are you stand on tariff today, as things are changing so fast as we speak?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's what I said before. New Zealand is a small trading nation where 1 in 4 of our jobs are tied to international trade, has just believed that for us, the best model is to have very lean, efficient, successful, competitive businesses. And so we have built that over the last 20, 30 years. So our businesses can go out in the world, compete from New Zealand with the best in the world and do very well. And so for us, I appreciate, say, the US has a different trade policy. Every country's acting in its national interests. But for us, we believe very strongly in that rules-based system, the free flow of trades and goods. So we will continue to make that case in forums like APEC and ASEAN, where I've just come from, because we need to remake the case for the rules-based system. Yes, the system needs some upgrading. The WTO needs reforms, all of those good things. But I think there's still a huge opportunity for us to continue to build out. And the other thing that we've been doing is that we've obviously been at the heart of a lot of those free trade agreements in the world, and our exporters have got very, very good and very agile at moving their product from one market to another market with great speed and great flexibility. So, yes, it's very choppy waters, but actually we know where we want to go to as a country, and it's about our relative competitiveness.
Innovation, particularly in the field of artificial intelligence. APEC CEO Summit has a lot of topics to involve that, and meanwhile, there will be a lot of interactions as well. So where do you stand when it comes to artificial intelligence, because policy really matter?
Yeah, look, I think, there is much more opportunity than there is downside risk with AI. I know there's a lot of conversation around, for all our economies, and particularly for a country like New Zealand, there is just so much more upside through adoption of technology, AI, quantum, a whole bunch of the technologies that are there. For us, I think, and that's up for you as the business leaders to think about how you're going to keep adopting technology to transform your business models, to improve your margin and build great businesses commercially, culturally, customer-wise. But for us as government leaders, I also think, there is a real impatience from the public around the world and frustration from around the world that governments are not delivering. They're not delivering outcomes that actually improve my daily life. And so I think for us running large public services, there's a huge opportunity to transform government through AI. And it's a conversation we're starting in New Zealand as we digitize government, because, we want to have large, service organizations that are customer focused, that are technology enabled, and actually are serving the people that they serve. And I think in government, there's often a loss of who's the customer. And of course, it's the public of your country that actually want those services being consumed in a really good way.
Togetherness is a challenge these days, unlike the early days when APEC was just founded. As the executive director, how do you see your role as rallying the crowd on board for cooperation?
When APEC was founded, the kind of language that we put forward, that it's a very diversified region. We have big economies, we have small economies, we have advanced economies, we have emerging economies. So that sense of diversity is built into APEC's DNA. And that has continued throughout our entire history. Now, what's important about APEC is that togetherness has enabled tremendous growth. So in some economies, we've seen incomes more than double. For others, they've increased tenfold. And that's part of the magic of APEC, that everyone is doing well together. There are challenges, but thinking through those challenges and finding solutions to the problems that we face today is the center and it's the focus of the work that we do.
Elephant in the room, tariff. Because APEC has been founded 30 years ago based on the concept of free trade. Now, if the tariff continue to be a threat for everyone, where is APEC's attractiveness? Many would question. What do you think?
What we really try to do is focus on the issues that we can work on together. So, for example, trade, it's important to all of us, but what should be the rules of trade? So if we turn back the clock 30 years, we weren't really talking about the digital economy. We weren't talking about artificial intelligence. So what kind of rules should we have today?
Updated.
Updated. So that's the kind of work that we can do, as an incubator to think of ideas, rules, regulations that can then be brought into the multilateral trading system that will ensure its relevance as we move forward. There are other issues that we look at, for example, supply chain resilience. As we all learned during the COVID pandemic, supply chains can be very brittle. If they break down, the goods don't come to us. So what is it that we can do to ensure that the goods flow freely?
I want to ask you a few questions related to some interesting concepts. Earlier, we talked over the decades in APEC about cooperation, but now these days the word competition is being mentioned so much. So what do you think about this philosophical relations, in a way, between competition and cooperation?
We all want to do well. We want to compete. We want, say, from a corporate perspective, I want to make money. So let me put it
that is
in
the goal of
very
corporate,
simple
right?
means.
Yeah,
so I will
exactly.
do my best to make the very competitive product. And there are others that will say, I have the best product. And that produces better consumer welfare. So there's competition, but there's also some cooperation in that process. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is improve the living standards and lives for all of our people.
Well said. But what about the concept of short-term and long-term? Some have been complaining about the issues of short-termism, so to speak, among policymakers. What do you think?
Over the short term, we do see this complex world that's changing. But over the long term, there are so many challenges that we're facing, including technology, including climate change. So what are the challenges that we're facing today? Immediately, for example, in our region, we're very susceptible to natural disasters. So there's work that we need to do to adapt, if you like, adapt our infrastructure so that our people are less vulnerable. Over the longer term, we'll be looking at mitigation. How do we reduce the carbon footprint of our industry? So we see that with huge deployment of solar cells, more EVs on the cars, and wind power. So this is, there's a short-term thing where we have to adapt to that reality, but over the future, it's mitigating the root cause of the problem.
From the business perspective, there are many statements out of U.S. business organizations expressing their concern about things like tariffs and unilateralism and the way forward. But I also know that there's a lot of these, multilateral institutions and things that have gotten a little sclerotic. They're heavy in some areas, and they may not move very agilely. I think that's what makes APEC so attractive. It is agile, and it is something where it's built by consensus among parties that agree to something, and then you move forward. And it's especially useful in areas maybe like demographics and like AI and digital that have not got all of the guardrails around them. They're new areas, they're issues that are emerging, and that's where APEC can, I think, do some of its best work.
Meanwhile, about AI, you mentioned it several times. Artificial intelligence is really bringing the industry and our life to a very different state. However,
yes,
there's a lot of discussions about standards. There's a lot of discussions about, whether there will be divided into camps. These are, of course, very negative and also controversial issues. From the business perspective, National Center for APEC, how do you bring different thoughts together so that the discussion will eventually benefit efficiency and growth?
What's happening with APEC and AI, which I think is very, very useful. They are in APEC, the working groups and things that are working on AI and digital, don't try to do the governance piece. There are global entities that are looking at that. That's a very tricky and difficult, snarly issue to try to address. And so I think one of the things APEC is trying to do is look at this issue of what are the opportunities of it in specific areas, in healthcare, in trade facilitation, and the range of things in the financial sector. The impact of AI there. That's where APEC's work on AI and digital has been looking, and they're looking at things like data centers. There's a huge sort of challenge there, and I think APEC's a great place to bring together smart people who can think of solutions and brainstorm together. That's some of the best work APEC does, is in those kinds of settings.
The theme, it really tells the story. It's about bridge, business, and beyond. There's a lot of long-term looking, just judging from the theme itself. Your thoughts on these keywords, and how is the National Center of APEC in the United States trying to do similar jobs?
The bridge, business, and beyond for the CEO Summit is very similar to what the APEC did, the APEC Business Advisory Council. So the work that we've been doing on finding ways to maximize AI benefits to the APEC economies, working on supply chain connectivity, that's in the bridge area, and then beyond, looking ahead at what how can the both trade facilitation and how that can be used to AI can be used to make that a smoother process for all economies. I think that's one of the things that this has been able to do, and I think that the connectivity bridge piece of this is one that may well capture the imagination of next year's host and chair of APEC, because I know that's been a passion for the Chinese for some time now, is that connectivity, and a supply chain expo that was held not too long ago. And I have one of the Linky characters in my office because it was a gift from Chairman Ren. So I think that bridging and connecting is what APEC does so well, and I think that is something that we can hope to continue through the future.
You are walking so fast. There are others who are scratching their heads and say, where is my cup of tea? How can I be part of this?
Easy.
Is China and is Robin and his company gonna always be a big chunk of it and have no place to sit in this industry anymore?
If we put a lot of money in the innovation and R&D, they can talk to us and say, "Oh, Robin, this technology is very good. Can I license from you?" So we have a rule base. This rule base we call the United Nations rule base. Respect the IP. So I come to talk to you and say, can I license your technology to make a similar product?
That has been the practice earlier, right?
Exactly. But now, no, the practice for this is everyone know that.
Why do you think it can be difficult for some of them to digest this?
I think probably still in the concept level. So we have to respect the IP. So we have to enhance our thinking about this national United Nations rule or practice, international practice to respect IP. For example, when we start a business in ATL, first things we're doing, we know the IP is in some area in the United States, Telecordia laboratory. So we license the technology from them. That's why we respect IP. If everyone respect IP, protect the IP, then innovation become, real friendly competitions. I have new things. I can license it. I'm willing to license very good IPs or technology from my competitor, from everywhere in the world. Yeah. Because this is like put everything on the table.
You are one of the leading Chinese business person who are very active on the international stage. I saw you at the World Economic Forum in Davos, for example, now as APEC member to provide advice and suggestions to the political leaders in the Asia-Pacific region. But I really wonder, what about cooperation among the business leaders of the region, and not just the APEC members, which you earlier already touched on, but also I see your name being frequently related to some of the leading minds and entrepreneurs in the United States, for example, in Asia, for example, in Europe. So what do you see in common with them?
I think there's three common things. Yeah. Number one, everyone believe, most of the business leaders believe sustainability for the future development or zero carbon society have to be there because of climate change, because a lot of things happen here. This is, we say, we have a common understanding, yes. We can say that. Number two, every business leader, they have a burden. They need to report to the shareholders, how can we make a profit next quarter, right? This is common things. The third common thing is they all agreed that Seattle in this field have the ability to help them. So with these three consensus, understandings, then we try to figure out each one different. Someone is a European guy, some is US, some is Asia Pacific, some is, they have different environmental, different needs. That's why we need to provide different solutions to them. The reason I try to participate is a more international discussion. There's two things in behind. Number one, since we have the good technology and industry.
You need to let people know. You also need to support others, right. Vice versa.
Right. We need to support them. We need to help them together to make this business strong and growing in a sustainability way. So this is my purpose to set up this company. Sure, we have another purpose, right? One purpose is try to help my hometown to get rid of the poverty. Now it's focused on doing this for the industry, for the whole human being, how to make it a sustainability with my angle, my small efforts. Number two behind that is usually people don't believe. Long time ago, because I'm working with all these European people, US people many years in my lifetime. So people don't believe a Chinese company, the technology really can help or really advanced. So we want to show them, to prove to them, say, we can help you to make this area, I don't say everywhere, okay, this area, in the energy transition days, you will make profit. Not because you transition to this renewable energy, you will lose money. If you work together,
you can survive this cycle and even thrive.
Exactly, survive this transition cycle and thrive.
The Asia-Pacific region, one of the most dynamic in the world, hosts some of the world's largest economies, enjoys a long legacy of connectivity, and stands at the forefront of innovation. When things are changing fast, can the region still remain dynamic and connected? Can it still create solutions and inspirations for the rest of the world? I'm in South Korea this week, looking for answers during the APEC Economic Leaders Week being held here. Join me on the APEC CEO Summit stage, in the hallways of APEC Economic Leaders Meetings, and on the sidelines of crucial bilateral and multilateral meetings taking place here. Connect and act. World Insight, only on CGTN. You're watching World Insight, our special program Connect and Act, on the sideline of the 2025 APEC Economic Leaders Week in Gyeongju, the Republic of Korea. The theme of this year's Economic Leaders Week has a lot to do with innovation and technological progress. On the topic, I talked to Bi Chen-han, the founder and CEO of Brainco, the world's leading brain-machine interface startup. I also asked questions related to innovation to Wang Xinxin, the founder of Unitree Robotics, known for pioneering quadruple robots. This time you are with the CCPIT, with the Chinese entrepreneur delegation. Now, how do you see individual company, small company like yours, interact with a platform like that and be able to reach out to different international platforms such as the APEC CEO Summit?
This is our second time attending APEC. From talking with other delegates, I feel that, in the past, whether China's delegation or that of other countries, the teams were mostly made up of large companies, including many big state-owned enterprises. As a startup, we are honored to be part of the Chinese entrepreneurs delegation. I think this also shows the country's growing emphasis on innovation and new technologies and the broader need for breakthrough technology. So, this year, companies like Qiangnao Technology, along with many other emerging firms, are here at APEC. It's a great opportunity for us.
In the 15th five-year plan, there's a specific sentence that needs to be self-reliant and self-independent. As an entrepreneur in China now, what does that mean to you?
Frankly, it's the same for a country and for a company. For our critical technologies, we must be able to understand them thoroughly through our own research and turn them into real products, rather than relying on borrowing or copying from others. At Qiangnao, from day one, we've focused on in-house R&D, building both technology and product from the ground up. Take brain-computer interfaces. The field has a history of century-old. When we founded the company, we decided to redesign BCI devices from scratch and abandon the old, mature product form. Those legacy products could never serve tens of millions of people. They were built for labs, maybe 20 users, not 10 million. So we started over and left the old models behind. Many Chinese companies today have the same drive. Start from scratch, don't imitate, build independently, and find an interoperable path.
Thank you so much, Mr. Han. Always a great pleasure to see you. Thank you. What do you make of the cooperation, especially in the fields of robots, you and your peers in the Asia Pacific?
Our company has always been operating in overseas business, and we have many partnerships in the Asia Pacific region. In fact, we have arranged to meet with some potential partners later today to explore collaboration opportunities. I've been promoting the popularization and application of robotics worldwide, which is a valuable thing. The real challenge in combining AI and robotics is to make robots driven by AI perform tasks effectively, whether it's in homes, factories, or even agricultural environments. This remains a global challenge, and I believe it highlights the value of global cooperation. I think the biggest issue right now is that the generalization ability or versatility of AI in robotics is still not sufficient. In specialized areas, such as tasks like serving tea or assembling a specific part, AI and robots are already performing quite well. However, the biggest challenge today is enabling robots driven by AI to work across various scenarios. So globally, companies like NVIDIA have provided the world with robotics-related chips and software over the past few years, while our company has supplied better robots' bodies for global use. Other companies may be developing their own software for robotics or creating specialized AI robots models. Over the past few years, it's been clear that through everyone's effort, the development of the robotics industry have been very positive and healthy. Although the scale isn't particularly large yet, I believe the overall growth is very optimistic. In many ways, the industry is, in a sense, a community working together. I think the biggest point is that the industry is thriving, and everyone within the industry has worked together to make it better and expand the market. The remaining issue is how to divide the pie. I believe global co-creation is the most meaningful and valuable form of cooperation for the world, and it is the most effective way to achieve the greatest prospect for the future.
That's my latest conversation with innovation leaders coming from the Asia Pacific region on the sideline of the 2025 APEC Economic Leaders Week. And that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to know more, search World Insight or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on X and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei on behalf of my teams here in Gyeongju and also in Beijing. Thank you so much for being with us. I'll see you in Beijing.
Hello everyone, and you're now watching CGTN, and welcome to our special coverage of the 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. I'm Li Dongning in Beijing.
And I'm Pan Dong. Today marks the final day of the two-day Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Economic Leaders Meeting in the Republic of Korea. Chinese President Xi Jinping continues to attend APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in Gyeongju.
Right, and the historic city of Gyeongju is hosting world leaders from regional economies, and Chinese President Xi Jinping is among those attending at the invitation of his ROK counterpart, Lee Jae-myung. And in his speech at the first session of the meeting on Friday, President Xi called for APEC to jointly promote growth, improve people's lives, and champion open development. And the theme of this year's APEC meeting is Building a Sustainable Tomorrow, centered on three pillars: connect, innovate, and prosper.
The gathering also includes intensive policy discussions and initiatives ranging from advancing digital and AI cooperation to addressing demographic change. Chinese President Xi Jinping is continuing to attend the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in Gyeongju. This year's APEC meeting is being held under the theme of Building a Sustainable Tomorrow, centered on three pillars: connect, innovate, prosper. On Friday, he delivered a speech at the event. In his speech, President Xi called for APEC member economies to jointly safeguard the multilateral trading system, build an open regional economic environment, and maintain the stability and smooth flow of industrial and supply chains. He also called for promoting the digitalization and greening of trade and pursuing universally beneficial and inclusive development.
Right, and earlier Chinese President Xi Jinping also says APEC has made the Asia-Pacific the most dynamic region of the world economy. He made the remarks in his address building an inclusive, open Asia-Pacific economy for all at the first session of the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in Gyeongju.
On Friday morning, APEC leaders gathered at the Wabeck International Convention Centre in Gyeongju. Chinese President Xi Jinping was warmly welcomed by ROK President Lee Jae-myung as the session began. In his speech, President Xi highlighted that over the past 3 decades, APEC has driven the Asia-Pacific to the forefront of global economic growth. He warned that the world is now facing unprecedented changes and uncertainties, and stressed that APEC must pull together to promote growth, improve people's lives, and champion open development despite turbulent times. The Chinese president put forward 5 proposals to strengthen regional economic cooperation and development. First, safeguard the multilateral trading system. The WTO's authority must be strengthened, and trade rules must be updated to better protect the legitimate rights and interests of developing countries. Second, build an open economic environment. APEC must promote trade and investment liberalisation, fiscal and financial cooperation, and regional integration. This includes aligning free trade agreements such as the RCEP and CPTPP to advance the free trade area of the Asia-Pacific. Third, maintain the stability of industrial and supply chains. Expanding common interests and enhancing physical, institutional and people-to-people connectivity are key to open development in the region. Fourth, advance digital and green transformation. Technology must be harnessed to remove barriers, boost trade and deepen cooperation in green industries and clean energy. Fifth, promote universally beneficial and inclusive development. Imbalances must be addressed and sustainable globalisation should be fostered. China will pursue high-quality development of the Belt and Road Initiative with various parties to achieve common prosperity. President Xi Jinping also reaffirmed China's commitment to an open world economy. He cited the recommendations for formulating the 15th Five-Year Plan from 2026, which China will take as an opportunity to deepen reform, expand high-standard opening up, and create new opportunities for the Asia-Pacific and the world.
On Friday afternoon, a written speech by Chinese President Xi Jinping was delivered to the APEC CEO Summit held in Gyeongju. In the address titled Putting the Asia-Pacific at the Forefront of the Joint Endeavour for World Development and Prosperity, President Xi Jinping said currently the international landscape is fraught with changes and turbulence, and the world has come to a new crossroads. What we choose will profoundly affect the future of the world. We must have vision, step up our responsibility, and choose what meets the expectations of the people in the Asia-Pacific and stands the test of history. History attests that humanity shares a common destiny. While hegemonism causes only war and disaster, fairness and justice ensure global peace and development. While confrontation and antagonism breed only estrangement and turbulence, win-win cooperation proves to be the right way forward. While unilateralism precipitates division and regression, multilateralism is the viable option for tackling global challenges.
And President Xi Jinping stressed that China always upholds the current international order and practices true multilateralism. China has successively put forward the Belt and Road Initiative, as well as the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative, and also the Global Governance Initiative. And they are China's solutions to the salient issues across the world, based on Chinese wisdom. And next year, China will host APEC for the third time. We look forward to working together with fellow APEC members to build an Asia-Pacific community and further boost peace and development in the Asia-Pacific and the wider world.
President Xi Jinping noted that APEC, founded in response to the trend of economic globalization, takes it as its objective and purpose to promote trade and investment liberalization and facilitation, and support economic growth and prosperity. We should renew our commitment to the original mission and make outstanding contributions to the world through more vibrant and resilient Asia-Pacific cooperation.
But first, we should take the lead in safeguarding peace and stability. We must always ensure the equal right of all countries to participate in international affairs, regardless of their size, strength, or wealth. And we should embrace the vision of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security, and resolve differences and disputes through dialogue and consultation.
Second, we should take the lead in enhancing openness and connectivity. We should firmly safeguard the WTO-centered, rules-based multilateral trading system, strengthen solidarity and collaboration, and keep global industrial and supply chains stable and unimpeded. We should advance regional economic integration, push forward the free trade area of the Asia-Pacific, and play the Asia-Pacific's part in global economic growth.
And third, we should take the lead in promoting win-win cooperation. We should stay true to the vision of harmony without uniformity, fully leverage the diversity of Asia-Pacific economies, draw on each other's strengths, and jointly make the pie of Asia-Pacific cooperation bigger. We should foster an environment of cooperation to achieve success and development for all economies.
Fourth, we should take the lead in pursuing benefits for all and inclusiveness. We should put the people first and fully implement the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We should step up support for developing economies, bridge development gaps, increase people's well-being, and deliver prosperity to all the people in the Asia-Pacific.
And President Xi Jinping also highlighted that China has been a major engine of a world economic growth for many years. And during the 14th five-year plan period, the Chinese economy has registered an annual growth rate of around 5.5% on average, contributing around 30% of global growth. And China is the only developing country that hosts a national-level international import expo and continually opens its market to the world. Well, the China market is huge and promising, and China can provide more growth opportunities for the global business community.
China is helping companies of different types of ownership to grow and thrive through fair competition. There are only 29 items left on China's negative list for foreign investment and 0 items in the manufacturing sector. China will continue to open the services sector and is universally recognized as one of the safest countries in the world. China can provide a good business environment for the global business community.
And China is vigorously developing future industries, strengthening emerging industries and upgrading traditional industries. Innovation is steadily driving the economy forward. China can provide a vast platform of innovation for the global business community.
China is making coordinated advances in decarbonizing, mitigating pollution, expanding green transition, and promoting growth. It has the largest renewable energy system and the biggest, most complete new energy industrial chain in the world. China can provide enabling conditions of green growth for the global business community.
China is an ideal, safe, and promising destination for global investors. Partnering with China means embracing opportunities, and believing in China means being optimistic about tomorrow. And investing in China means investing in the future.
President Xi Jinping stressed that the Asia-Pacific business communities are forerunners of the times, pioneers of change, and trendsetters of the world. It is hoped that they will carry forward the spirit of entrepreneurship, remain pioneering, open-minded, innovative, and resilient, work together to promote Asia-Pacific growth and prosperity, and forge a mighty force to ushering a great future for the Asia-Pacific and the world.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has met with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on the sidelines of the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. President Xi noted that this year marks the 55th anniversary of diplomatic ties and the 20th anniversary of their strategic partnership. He said relations are showing a sound momentum of recovery which serves the common interests of both countries. The president said China is ready to work with Canada to bring relations back on track toward stable and sustainable development to better benefit both peoples. He stressed the need for both sides to uphold mutual benefit, expand practical cooperation in fields like the economy, trade, and energy, and increase people-to-people exchanges. And he also called for strengthened coordination within the UN and other multilateral frameworks. Prime Minister Carney said Canada's new government places a high importance on its relationship with China. He expressed a desire to achieve more results by advancing ties in a practical and constructive manner. Carney added that Canada is ready to maintain close, high-level exchanges and promote cooperation in areas like agriculture, energy, and climate change. And on international affairs, he said Canada and China share similar visions and can enhance collaboration to practice multilateralism, safeguard free trade, and promote reform of the international economic order. And the two leaders agreed to resume exchanges and cooperation in various fields, find solutions to economic and trade issues of mutual concern, and jointly promote the development of the China-Canada strategic partnership.
Chinese President Xi Jinping also met with Thai Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul on the sidelines of the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. President Xi Jinping expressed his deep condolences on the passing of the Queen Mother surrogate. He described China and Thailand as good neighbors, good friends, and good partners, noting that this year marks the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations. President Xi said the two sides are at a new starting point. He called for deepening modernization efforts and enhancing contributions to regional stability and prosperity. President Xi Jinping said China is willing to advance cooperation with Thailand in key areas, including railway construction, agricultural trade, the green economy, and digital innovation. He also stressed the need for stronger measures to combat online gambling and telecom fraud to ensure a secure environment for cooperation. Xi added that China is willing to work with Thailand to promote the global governance initiative and safeguard the common interests of the global South. Prime Minister Anutin thanked President Xi Jinping for his condolences. He agreed that this year is a significant milestone for bilateral ties. Anutin said Thailand is willing to strengthen cooperation in fields like tourism, technology and trade. He said his country will continue to work hard to fight against the criminal activities, including online gambling and fraud. Prime Minister An Nu Ting said Thailand is willing to strengthen multilateral cooperation with China to promote regional peace, stability and prosperity.
Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping has also met with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. And President Xi emphasized that China and Japan are important neighbors. He said nurturing a long-term, healthy and stable relationship serves the common interests of both peoples and meets the expectations of the international community. And President Xi said China is ready to work with Japan to uphold the political foundation of bilateral ties in line with the principles set out in the 4 political documents between the two countries, advance their strategic and mutually beneficial relationship, and build constructive and stable bilateral ties that meet the needs of the new era. And he stressed that relations face both opportunities and challenges. He also expressed hope that Japan's new cabinet would develop a correct perception of China and stay committed to peace, friendship and cooperation. And President Xi outlined 5 priorities for the relationship to flourish, honoring important political consensuses, pursuing win-win cooperation in areas such as high-end manufacturing, the digital economy, green development and finance, promoting mutual understanding through exchanges between governments, political parties and peoples, enhancing multilateral cooperation to build an Asia-Pacific community, and properly managing differences. Prime Minister Takaichi emphasized the significance of bilateral ties and also said the two countries share a major responsibility for regional and global peace and prosperity. Takaichi said Japan is ready to strengthen communication, enhance cooperation and advance their strategic and mutually beneficial relationship. She also reaffirmed Japan's position on the Taiwan question stated in the 1972 China-Japan joint statement.
For more on the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, let's cross live to our reporter Zhao Yingfei in Gyeongju. Hello Yingfei, bring us up to date.
Well, Pandeng and Dongning were here outside of the International Media Center exactly 1 hour ago. The second group meeting of the leaders has just begun. We see ROK President Lee delivered welcome speech, and the leaders of the Asia-Pacific economies will speak in turn, including Chinese President Xi Jinping. We're expecting to see another round of important speech by the Chinese president. Well, when we were working, speaking of the agenda, this is the last day of this year's APEC, so we'll be able to see a family photo. And for the Chinese president, this is also his last day of his state visit to the Republic of Korea. So certainly we will expect a bilateral meeting between President Lee Jae-myung and President Xi Jinping. And speaking of the agenda, since this is the last day, so certainly a lot of the press in the media center behind me are closely watching a possible outcome document. Many of the press are closely watching what the content of the document will be. Some are optimistic about the final document, while others were concerned about the detailed language of expression. Several key terms are being addressed in the press reporting, including free trade, multilateralism, sustainable development, and WTO. Because this year's event is being held under the backdrop of trade protectionism, U.S. President Trump did not attend the group session. However, he did meet with President Xi. However, at the beginning session, at the first group session, President Xi's speech really emphasized China's commitment in the multilateralism. He emphasized how important it is to follow the WTO rule as the core. And he also gave an example of China's example. He cherished the past 5 years, the 14th five-year plan that China has reached, and also China has contributed 30% of the world growth. So certainly this upcoming speech by the Chinese president will be more information from him to see how China is further committing to the development of the Asia Pacific for the sake of improving people's livelihood. Now back to you.
Thank you very much, our reporter Zhao Yunfei in Gyeongju.
And now for more insight, we're now joined by Mr. Qu Qiang, a fellow at the Belt and Road Research Center at Minzu University of China, and Ms. Wang Yaojing, Associate Professor of Economics at Peking University. Welcome to our special coverage. Well, Ms. Wang, Connect is a key theme, part of the key theme of this year's APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. How do you think that APEC can strengthen physically and also digitally across diverse economies in this organization?
Well, I'm glad that you divide this topic into physical and digital, because this is very important on both ends. So physically, we are seeing that China is building or helping countries to build railway roads across countries, across borders, or within a country to enhance this connectivity between countries, also within a country. And we know that from previous research that these high-speed railroad can greatly enhance the economic activity and connectivity of all the regions that this railroad passes, and also improve mobility of the people. And digital, you just mentioned, is that China is helping to build this digital infrastructure for a lot of the countries, especially developing countries, so that all people can access this digital platform.
You're talking about the Belt and Road Initiative.
Yes,
in a large sense, right? Because it functions like that.
Definitely, yes.
And how do you think the Belt and Road Initiative actually coordinate or complement with the function of APEC in terms of regional integration rather than compete?
Well, I think Belt and Road Initiative is another dimension that goes to other regions in the world rather than just a geopolitical or a geographic proximity. So the Belt and Road Initiative kind of expand the China's influence and actually connect all the way through, say, Central Asia to Arabic countries and all the way to Europe, and also in other South. So we have this vast southern nations that are not just in Southeast Asia, not just in Asia Pacific, but also in other parts of the world. Yes.
And Mr. Chu, what about innovate, the second pillar under this year's APEC Economic Leaders Meeting's theme? How's the Asia Pacific doing in this particular aspect, especially in the context of rising protectionism and unilateralism?
Well, actually, innovation is probably the most important, the ultimate drive for the economic growth. As Mr. Deng Xiaoping says, science and technology is number one productivity. So, well, been translated into today's context, this science and technology means the innovation on new things, new ideas, new technology, new business models. Well, I think this is absolutely true for China and also for the ASEAN and APEC communities in the past 50 years. If I take a look at all the achievement, well, our economic breakthroughs used to be dominated solely by United States of America, but more and more currently, if you take a look at the Nobel Prize winner, you'll be taking a look at the giant and the phenomenal kind of the businesses. Most of them are actually gradually happening in the ASEAN and the APEC regions, and Asia, for example. Japan has been rising up in the Nobel Prize winning, and also China have more and more phenomenal big companies like TikTok, like the CGTN, like the Unitree robots. And why is that? It's because in the APEC region, in the whole Eastern Asian plus ASEAN, we have this kind of the feature which is open, transparent, on the mutual respect and a win-win result, this kind of the atmosphere. Look, in the past, when the whole world is still going on most of the turbulences, I think China and Eastern Asia are, well, I think one of the very few precious regions we're still keeping the safe and the peace in here. And China is a very large country. We adore innovation. We adore peace, and we understand only under the peace, on the condition of peace and mutual respect, and win-win result, people would love to create and innovate. I think this is a precondition. So in the past so many years, we've been seeing the global South nations in these regions are rising up. We're not talking about big ideas. We're talking about the companies in Thailand, the innovators in Vietnam, those companies we mentioned in Japan and South Korea and in China, and they form a new trend of the globalization / innovation in the whole world right now, and makes the whole world better and give us more choices, diversified. So I think this trend is going to continue as far as we can, follow what President Xi Jinping has mentioned in his advocative. That is, we always need to, have this kind of the peaceful coexistence mindset. We always should anti the bullying and hegemony, and also fight against those ideas of the conflicts of the civilization, and also zero-sum game, and really truly to celebrate this diversity and the peaceful environment so we can innovate. And innovate right now has been translated to those stability in the supply chain in Asia, in APEC regions, and also the growth point in these regions, like double digits in ASEAN, and also more and more of the new ideas coming out of this region. And if we can put this kind of a model, I truly hope this is not only the model for our region, I hope this is the model for everywhere. So the whole world will come back to the right track of the future growth.
All the ideas, the consensus or agreements reached by the national leaders at APEC will eventually go down for business to practice one after another, one with each other as well. How big or how much do you think their voices matter? Because CEO's meeting was held yesterday. How much do you think their voices matter when national leaders are talking about how to deal with this world full of uncertainties?
Oh, that matters tremendously, because we're seeing the CEOs of robot companies, we're seeing CEOs of battery companies, and those are the core figures in innovation today. And what's driving the humanity forward is from innovation. So I think the CEOs, especially in this summit, they're representing the highest technology that's in the industry, and they're also trying to. They have this common consensus is that they also try to make people's lives better, right? By making it more convenient, more accessible to all people. So I think their voices matter a lot, and the leaders would definitely recognize that.
So you think their voices will be influencing or will be an element of the leaders' policy making?
For sure.
All right, thank you very much. You're now watching our special coverage of the 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, and we'll keep you updated on CGTN for further information. I'm Li Dongning in Beijing.
And I'm Pan Zheng. Stay tuned.
Hello then and welcome to World Today on CGTN. I'm Li Dongning in Beijing.
And Pandong, we start with the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in the Republic of Korea. Chinese President Xi Jinping is continuing to attend the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in Gyeongju. This year's APEC meeting is being held under the theme of Building a Sustainable Tomorrow, centered on the three pillars: connect, innovate and prosper. On Friday, he delivered a speech at the event. In his speech, President Xi Jinping called for APEC member economies to jointly safeguard the multilateral trading system, build an open regional economic environment, and maintain the stability and smooth flow of industrial and supply chains. He also called for promoting the digitalization and greening of trade and pursuing universally beneficial and inclusive development.
Right, and scholars and business leaders around the world discuss the significance of President Xi's remarks and what they could mean for the world.
I think what President Xi Jinping is suggesting here is going to be beneficial for business because it's supportive of a multilateral trading system. And I think that is what the world needs right now, is a multilateral trading system that is fair and equitable and allows all partnerships to flourish.
Il presidente Xi Jinping è senz'altro una delle personalità più importanti.
President Xi Jinping is undoubtedly one of the most important figures on the international stage today. His concept of building a community with a shared future for humanity is an innovation of great significance. His idea is not only a concept where both large and small countries can engage in dialogue on an equal footing and avoid being suppressed by powerful powers, but also a brand new international relations system. Because if countries can engage in dialogue and communication, create economic cooperation opportunities, and achieve win-win results, it is obvious that all countries will benefit and the well-being of their people will also improve accordingly.
Well, look, the speech emphasized economic openness, multilateral institutions, and both of those things are topics on which Australia agrees. So just speaking as an Australian, I think it would have gone down quite well in Canberra. I often think when it comes to trade, Australia and Beijing Canberra and Beijing have more in common than Canberra and Washington. So look, I think it would have gone down well locally here for sure. This is obviously the dominant, the most vibrant region in the global economy, and China's at the heart of that, of course.
We spoke to Dr. David Morris, a former Australian diplomat and vice chair of the UN Asia-Pacific Sustainable Business Network. He shares his thoughts on President Xi Jinping's proposal to uphold a multilateral trading system.
The Chinese president has urged APEC members to uphold the multilateral trading system and build an open regional economic environment. So under the current APEC framework, how would you assess recent developments in China-Australia relations?
Hello, it's good to be with you. Well, the multilateral system, the trading order and the entire international system is under a lot of stress at the moment. There are such changes happening in the world, and the utmost importance of upholding the multilateral system is front and center, I think, for most people around the world, certainly for businesses and for people, for society, as well as for governments. So for China and Australia, this is fundamentally important, to have an open trading system, to maintain what has worked so well for us in the Asia Pacific. In the last, let's face it, more than 30 years, we've had a very successful period of regional economic integration, decreasing barriers to trade and to investment, and that has served the people of the Asia Pacific so well. So we need to cling on to this at a time when there are protectionist pressures. There are pressures for major powers to think about their interests as coming first before others. Those of us who believe in the multilateral system, we really will need to make the case for why rules work and why shared goals work.
And on the sidelines of the APEC Leaders Summit, the concurrent APEC CEO Summit is enhancing connections within the Asia-Pacific business community. And members of the Chinese delegation have stated that President Xi's remarks have greatly boosted their confidence in expanding further into regional markets.
习主席在 APEC 会议中提到的5个建议，给企业家增强了信心。我是来自半导体行业的代表。
President Xi's 5-point proposal at APEC has given entrepreneurs even greater confidence. As a representative from the semiconductor industry, I believe semiconductors are central to the new quality productive forces and fit perfectly into the 15th five-year plan. The sector is bound to have vast room for growth. I intend to deepen cooperation across the Asia-Pacific, contributing more to the development of new quality productive forces, stronger supply chains, and advances in artificial intelligence.
发展新质生产力、人工智能以及贸易数字化、绿色化，做出更多的贡献。
习主席的5点建议中提到了维护多边贸易的体系，这对我们 贸易商来非常重要。
Among President Xi Jinping's 5 proposals, the pledge to safeguard the multilateral trading system is of vital importance to traders. International trade, particularly with China and Republic of Korea, has in recent years been greatly impacted by tariffs and other non-market forces. As the world's top trading nation, China's proactive defense of the multilateral system and of stable supply chains is a powerful stabilizer for traders everywhere and for the global economy as a whole, including within APEC.
对包括 APEC 在内的全世界经济都是一个强大的稳定剂。
习主席在 APEC 上提出的5点建议，对我们有着非常大的鼓舞作用。我是来自文化行业的代表。
President Xi's 5 proposals at APEC have been a great source of encouragement for us. I am from the cultural sector. My company, One Step, One Realm Culture and Tourism IP, specializes in integrating cultural tourism IP. We use cultural tourism to empower trade. President Xi's call for an open economy and the cultural powerhouse goal outlined in the 15th five-year plan adopted at the 4th plenum have given us great confidence. We believe that Asia-Pacific cultural exchanges will be a key driver of our growth. Under President Xi's 5 proposals, we are confident that cultural development will enjoy a flourishing future.
我们非常有信心，在习主席的5个建议的指引下，文化行业一定能有更加繁荣和强大的发展。
Chinese President Xi Jinping's message at the APEC CEO Summit in the Republic of Korea has called for greater cooperation and openness amid global economic uncertainty. The speech reaffirmed China's commitment to shared growth across the Asia-Pacific. We spoke to participants at the summit to hear their reactions.
So there is a reason to believe that if things continue in the direction that we're going, just maybe we're restoring some global order to the trade policy architecture that is in the WTO, and so there's some opportunities there to build confidence.
I think the key takeaway is that it's strengthened global confidence in China and shown China's openness to the world.
也希望亚太工商界能够积极参与。
We hope the Asia-Pacific business community will actively explore cooperation in AI, healthcare, and green transition, driving deeper regional trade ties and fueling global growth.
Well, I'm seeing for a greater degree of collaboration between the United States and China, more commercial interactions together. So I think it'll be a great venue for the countries to interact together and to also invite the rest of the world.
This year, the world comes to the ROK, where leaders of the Asia-Pacific charts a shared vision for a sustainable tomorrow.
To connect economies, ideas, and people.
Strengthening trade, investment, and digital links across the region.
To innovate, harnessing AI, digital transformation, and smart industries while bridging the digital gap.
And to prosper, tackling climate change, securing clean energy, and ensuring the growth benefits everyone.
From global policies to local impact, we bring you the visions, the challenges, and the breakthroughs that matter.
Follow our extensive, in-depth coverage of APEC 2025 on CGTN.
Now let's turn to our 2 guests in the studio, Mr. Chu Qiang and Ms. Wang Yaojing. The flow of data is actually as crucial now as the flow of goods Indeed, and with the differing stances on data privacy and localization, do you think APEC actually can advance a regional consensus on digital trade rules?
Yes, definitely. I think digital trade rules is one of the public goods in this AI region because all this creates a uniform standard for all participants to be able to freely participate in this AI initiative, and also creates this rule-based accordance so that everyone will adhere the same rules. And I think China is working towards building these public goods, as mentioned in Xi Jinping's speech. And China is providing this public good for all the members of APEC.
Mr. Chu, we know the theme of this year's APEC gathering is very forward-looking. It's about a better tomorrow, a better future. And none of that would be existent without a sustainable environment for everyone on this planet. We know Chinese President Xi Jinping has been emphasizing the importance of environmental protection and ecological sustainability. So how important is the green transition and decarbonizing and for not only China, but all the Asia-Pacific member economies?
Well, Pandang, actually, I think this represented Chinese idea of the future development for not only China, but for the whole region. I think number one, well, China is not just trying to play the same thing here, but we fully understand how important going green actually means for the whole region's, economic growth. Because if you walk in the shoes in China, if you ask, if you are the probably largest, manufacturer of the whole world, just imagine, do you want a neighbor who is been polluted, sick, and and all kinds of the turbulence, or you want a neighbor well off in a peaceful environment, everything goes on so clean and people get very healthy? I think the answer is always the second one, because the second neighbor actually be very peaceful with you, friendly with you, and they have the affordability to purchase all the products, and also they will contribute back to your market. So it's like mutual demand, mutual investment, and very good relations. So that will always be the truth. I think this is number one. Number two, China always believes, we should do trade with each other on an equal footing. So green is actually meaning the inclusiveness and the equalness. What does that even mean? Because in the past, it means in the old international trade system, we have this filtered down pyramid of kind of the trade, which means, okay, I'm going green, I'm going to dump you the obsolete, dirty kind of a power generation to you, or kinds of the old industry to you, so that I'm better, I'm more expensive, but you're just going to take over those cheap products. No, China don't want to do that. Well, there's an anecdote I would like to share with you. It's what I heard, really. There is one country want to come to China to buy, a power station. They say, okay, China, you go green, you have solar, you have wind, but please give us, we are lack of energy, electricity. Please give us lower price on the old coal technology so we can at least have some power in the first place. So our leaders, President Xi Jinping said, no. Well, we would like to give you the latest technology with affordable price. Why is that? Because we understand if you get prospered, if you got your own industry, if you can run after your ambition of modernization, your version of digitalization, it's good for China as well. Because we explained a poor, turbulent neighbor or a rich, well-off and peaceful neighbor do you want? We fully understand that. So that's the reason we're going green in the first place, not only with China, but also with all of us. Because Confucius used to say, if you don't want something, don't give it to your neighbor. If you want something, share it with your neighbor. So, and also beyond that, I think the green economy itself is great growth opportunity. I'm just teaching a class of my students come from ASEAN nations just yesterday. We're showing them around how we're doing the carbon trade in Beijing. We have a grain exchange in there, and how we're built on all kinds of supply chain around this green development. It means raw materials, silicon, multi-silicon, monosilicons. We're talking about all this equipment, the turbines and the panels, and we're talking about the people. We'll nurture a whole round of this young talents to build this kind of economy, and this is more treasures, assets we're going to have for all of our community. Because with this kind of young people who can have this new productivity with the new quality, they will understand more about the connectivities. They want to talk to their counterparts in China with each other, and they will have this peaceful environment with each other. So I think eventually this is the goal we're after.
Right, and no matter big ideas or big consensus made through the national leaders on the APEC meeting, all the efforts made by the specific enterprises to make more profit, to make trade freer, the eventual goal of all those is to raise the standard of people's livelihoods for each of us, right? And it's interesting that in an interview with the Chinese media, President Lee Jae-myung said President Xi and him all started from a local leader and then they're national leaders, and they have been making great efforts to raise people's livelihood all along. And China has made remarkable achievements in that regard, poverty alleviation and raising the standards of healthcare, education, etc., employment. So far, so good, from my point of view. So when we put the efforts in the APEC range, how do you think member countries can make a unified effort to make that achievement into all the countries, all the member countries, because they're not developing on the same page right now? How can they achieve the same result of raising people's livelihood to a certain standard?
Well, that's an excellent question. Actually, I think there are two foundations to that. One is the common goal, and you mentioned that no matter it was the CEOs of big companies or is the great leaders of the countries, they all have the common goal, and we say that is for the shared humanity, shared future for humanity and raising people's living standard. And the second foundation is that we are treating each other in an equal and respectful way, that we are on the same footing, we are on the same common ground, and we do this, all of the negotiations and agreements are on the basis of mutual beneficial. And it's win-win situations. So like any business transaction is that it's not 1 + 1 or a zero sum. It's also always 1 + 1 bigger than 1. I think that's the foundation for how we're going to achieve that.
And just to follow up on inclusiveness of development, we noticed that President Xi Jinping has been emphasizing the importance of fulfilling the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. One particular aspect is about population, structural change, and Republic of Korea has proposed this cooperation initiative on the structural change of populations, mainly aging population, which is faced by many developing economies. So it looks like there will eventually be a dilemma. Economic development requires a very vibrant and dynamic workforce, yet the population is already aging. How can member economies work on this together, Mr. Chu?
Well, actually, when we're talking about this inclusive development, I think this is really important. Just take a look at the whole world right now. We've been divided by this kind of a situation. On one hand, there's a country trying to bridge the gap, minimize the gap, and include more people into the economic opportunities. But on the other hand, we've been seeing in many nations the young people rising up and protesting because they cannot find a job, because the gap of the whole society has been getting larger and larger. So here's an argument. How can we turn the population? The population is a neutral concept. Well, you can have the population bonus, but also you can have the population burden. Well, in China, we fully understand how is that thing's going, because if you take a look at when China has become the #2 economy of the whole world, it's been coincide with the period of time when President Xi Jinping launched his battle against extreme poverty. Because if they are in extreme poverty, they cannot have the time, money, or chance to join in the economic growth. But if you give them an opportunity, they will return you a miracle. So after we have this war against extreme poverty, and we won it by the year of 2020, China actually achieved a skyrocketing speed of the economic growth. because we created this miracle by turning the burden of population into the population bonus. And right now what we've been doing is we try to upgrade the population bonus into engineering bonus, the brain bonus. I think the similar situation are happening in ASEAN nations, in many APEC regions as well, in small islands, in ASEANs. Well, they have huge population, young demographic. But how can we translate those issues, into the bonus? Right. I think the first Kickstarter is we need to bridge the gap. We need to have the inclusive growth. It's not only we're talking about economy, but also we're talking about the politics, the stabilities we're talking about. In Vietnam, young people are actually fully engaged in the fast growth because Vietnam is very tightly engaging with Chinese supply chain. Right. But in the other nations, for example, we see in Madagascar, well, this deal has been struggling to bridge the gap. So young people are not satisfied. So we've been seeing this. We have the solution and we advocate that. We fully believe it. So I think that's the reason why we're doing so. Not only for the vulnerable group and poverty-stricken regions, but also we're talking more wider range of inclusively, like the she economy, for the women, for the children, for the elderly. We all need to consider
That's part of an inclusive integration, what inclusive integration means, really, and that's part of the goals, ambitious goals for APEC.
Let's get some updates first. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called on APEC member economies to work together to build a sustainable and brighter tomorrow during his speech at the second session of the 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. He put forward 3 proposals. First, he called to strengthen digital and intelligent empowerment to shape new advantages for APEC's innovative development. Second, he said the grouping should be committed to green and low-carbon development to create a new model for sustainable development. Third, he believed the grouping should deliver inclusive and shared benefits to foster a new atmosphere of inclusive development in the Asia-Pacific.
Well, as APEC pursues a high-quality growth and regional economic integration in the Asia-Pacific, our Aaron Liu spoke with Tan Sri Andrew Shang, chairman of the Georgetown Institute of Open and Advanced Studies, about the most critical role of the Chinese economy.
This is a very dynamic region, full of natural resources. Trade has been growing. Investments is still quite strong, despite some differences. But I think everybody agrees that trade, despite the trade wars, has been positive for global growth. China maintains a very positive attitude towards maintaining multilateral open markets. And I think a large part of the APEC members also feel that way. So I think other than short-term, the differences of views, the broad direction is still positive.
Seaweed farming has for decades been a source of income along Indonesia's coast. For one village in Sulawesi, it's become a gateway to global markets, with China playing a crucial role. Indonesia's seaweed industry is expanding rapidly thanks to Chinese partnerships supporting investment, technology and market access. Silkina Aluwalia takes a look at how seaweed exports are helping communities and turning local produce into global trade.
Every morning, Burhanuddin is knee-deep in ocean water. In this small village in Sulawesi, he's harvesting rows of seaweed. Like many here, Burhanuddin did not finish school, but this work has given his family stability.
This work is helping thousands of families. We used to live in stilt houses, now we live in brick ones. Our children can go to college. All of this is because of seaweed farming. It's truly incredible. Our lives have changed.
Farming has become a vital source of income here, but in recent years, it's become something much bigger.
Seaweed from Sulawesi is very sought after in China because this seaweed is only found in tropical regions. Indonesia is one of the world's largest producers of tropical seaweed, and we have the highest quality.
China is Indonesia's biggest buyer of seaweed, an ingredient used in food, cosmetics, and pharmaceuticals. The cooperation between China and Indonesia also includes discussions on price standardization, something crucial for small farmers.
In the future, our hope is not just exporting raw materials. We hope that future collaboration with China can include local seaweed processing. That way, the industry becomes more sustainable for our farmers.
It's a goal that aligns with Indonesia's initiative to add more value to its exports. This partnership goes beyond trade. It's about empowering coastal communities. The farmers here are being given access to new tools, technology, better prices, and most importantly, competitive international markets. This village is a powerful example of how economic ties between China and Indonesia are shaping lives at the grassroots level. And it's investments like these that are helping turn local communities into major players in the international market. Silkina Aluwalia, CGTN, Makassar.
All right, that's it for this edition of The World Today. I'm Li Dongning in Beijing.
And I'm Pan Deng. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We'll keep you updated on the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting.
Hello there and welcome to our special coverage of the 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. I'm Li Dongning in Beijing.
And I'm Pan Deng. Today marks the final day of the two-day Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Economic Leaders Meeting in the Republic of Korea.
Right, and the historic city of Gyeongju is hosting world leaders from regional economies. Chinese President Xi Jinping is among those attending at the invitation of his ROK counterpart Lee Jae-myung. And in his speech at the first session of the meeting on Friday, President Xi called for APEC to jointly promote growth, improve people's lives, and champion open development. And the theme of this year's APEC meeting is building a sustainable tomorrow, centered on three pillars: connect, innovate, and prosper.
That's right. And the gathering also includes intensive policy discussions and initiatives ranging from advancing digital and AI cooperation to addressing demographic change. Chinese President Xi Jinping is continuing to attend the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in Gyeongju. This year's APEC meeting is being held under the theme of building a sustainable tomorrow, centered on the three pillars: connect, innovate, prosper. On Friday, he delivered a speech at the event. In his speech, President Xi Jinping called for APEC member economies to jointly safeguard the multilateral trading system, build an open regional economic environment, and maintain the stability and smooth flow of industrial and supply chains. He also called for promoting the digitalization and the greening of trade and pursuing universally beneficial and inclusive development.
And Chinese President Xi Jinping has called on APEC member economies to work together to build a sustainable and brighter tomorrow during his speech at the second session of the 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. He put forward three proposals. First, he called to strengthen digital and intelligent empowerment to shape new advantages for APEC's innovative development. And second, he said the bloc should be committed to green and low-carbon development to create a new model for sustainable development. And third, he believed the bloc should deliver inclusive and shared benefits to foster a new atmosphere of inclusive development in the Asia-Pacific.
Now, for more on that, let's cross live to our reporter Zhao Yunfei in Gyeongju. He's been following all the developments very closely. Hello, Yunfei. Bring us up to date.
Hi there, Pan Deng and Dongning. We have just seen that President Xi Jinping has just delivered another speech at this year's APEC meeting. Certainly, as you mentioned, he raised three proposals, and all of the three proposals is really dive into details compared with the first speech that he delivered in the first group session yesterday. And this speech really dive into practical details, and he cited the revolutions of technology as well as the revolutions of the industry. And therefore, the three proposals, really the first one comes with the digital transformation that he called on the relevant economies of the Asia-Pacific to seek for new engines, giving the current involvement of the technology. Of course, the artificial intelligence is one of the key topics of this year's APEC. President Xi said that all sides, all relevant economies should further develop the artificial intelligence with a beneficial prospect, with a secure prospect, as well as with a fair development order. And also, in the second proposal, President Xi raised the importance of green development, the low-carbon development. He mentioned about the integration of the green development between each economies, because after all, this is a shared environment that all countries are sharing. And he also mentioned about China's initiative and saying that China will reach its goals when it comes to carbon reduction. The third proposal President Xi raised, as you mentioned, is about the shared benefits. He mentioned about the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. And within this section, he particularly mentioned about the development of small and medium enterprises, the development of human resources, the food security sectors, as well as energy transformation. So this is the speech that really tackles not only the revolutions in technology and industry, but also given the current global landscape situation, including the change in the population structure. And these are the proposals also push forward to build a shared future, a shared community within the Asia Pacific for the sake of improving people's lives. Now back to you.
Thank you very much, our reporter Zhao Yunfei in Gyeongju.
And let's go to our guests, Mr. Xu Cheng and Ms. Wang Yaojing. Well, Mr. Xu, we're facing a fast-changing, fast-developing digital world. All of a sudden, cash disappeared from our life, and we're asking all kinds of questions to seek answers from AI, and robots appearing more and more in our lives, maybe more in our daily lives in the future. Given that context, not every country is at the same page of development in digital development in the Asia-Pacific bloc. How do you think, especially when President Xi said in his three proposals that we should further unleash the potential of digital and smart development to give Asia-Pacific region a fresh edge in innovation-driven development? How do you think APEC can put that into action?
Yes, a great idea. I think this kind of the spasm, of the digital divide actually is another gap we need to bridge. Actually, this is also trying to, treat people equally, actually, give them the same opportunity. I think, Asia actually a very diversified market, as you mentioned, is correct. Like from Philippines to Indonesia to Malaysia, we have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, different islands, different regions, and different cultures and languages. And more importantly, they've been divided not only by geography, but also by, the digital infrastructures. I think that's the reason why in the APEC meetings, all the leaders have been for long promoted that we need to have this called APEC Information Highway, which means by the year of the 2026, all the APEC members, especially what I mentioned in this kind of what we call the fragmented terrace regions, like hundreds of thousands of islands, they need to have direct optic fiber connections so that information highway can cover not only the big city of Shanghai, Beijing, like Bangkok, but also we should cover those small islands to enable the children in there to learn through the internet, enable the girl in there to go to school in there, to enable a farmer to go online to sell the products. And we have been doing that a lot. For example, Indonesia, China, together with the local partners, we're doing the Bank Generasi, which means in each village, we're helping them to do the e-commerce, to sell their brand product, like the coconuts, like the capsules, those nuts, and so something like that. And more than that, we're going to enable the local schools to get access to the best education resources. We've been trying this before in China, totally been working. So if you're in a remote area, you don't have the good teacher, now it's fine. You have the internet, you can learn from the best, teachers, for good. And more than that, I think we've been introducing more things besides this, highway of information. We have AI. AI has been powering up all kinds of the commerce. For example, if you're a farmer or fisherman in Indonesia, you see the Indonesian fishermen are selling the seaweed to China, right? They don't speak Chinese, it's a complicated language. How do they do so? Now with AI, they can write an email to promote their products, 500 email within 1 minute in pure Chinese or in English. They can just promote their products very, very easily and to do the live cam with the support of AI technology. And also we have the blockchain technology. For example, we have very strict customs requirement on the original place of the productivity, right? Otherwise, you do not have this proof. You cannot go across the check of the customs. Now we have the blockchain technology. Even in the remote area in Papua New Guinea, even if you are in the remote area in the Vietnam and Da Nang, and you can use this technology to prove who you are, what kind of product you have, and you can go across this AI-powered internet and customs, declaration systems and sell your product very easily. Like we just mentioned, just in the past 3 years, those regions, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and even Cambodia, Myanmar, their export has been growing at the double digits through this e-commerce highway.
Thanks to AI.
Yeah, holistic systems. We're talking about just not only the internet access, but also AI, blockchain, and everything.
AI is Indeed, Mr. Qi, I totally agree with you. AI is helping us a lot, but it has problems at the same time, like anything else. They all have two sides, a double-edged sword. So governance of AI is very important. So Ms. Wang, proper AI governance, only under the proper governance of AI can digital economy unleash its most potential, right? How do you see the current governance in this block of APEC?
Well, I think China is promoting this initiative of having as many members as possible to join to make this standard, to make this commitment into forming a uniform AI governance initiative. So that's to make sure that the use of AI is safe and it's also equitable. And I think this calls for joint effort from all members. And we should not leave it to one or a few powerhouse to make this rule for
and
all
make
of
it
them.
equal is also very important and very difficult because the gaps are big.
Yes, the gaps are big. As Mr. Chu just mentioned, we have this huge gap in digital access, and now when AI comes, this gap is going to be just growing as fast as it might just grows as technology. Right. So there are a lot of difficulty to solve in making this uniform. But I think that's why we have these summits of all the CEOs, the tech company CEOs, and also the leaders of the world to come together and sit and find a common ground, common solution.
And why it
for all.
tops the three proposals raised by President Xi, actually, is the first one.
Have you got the implication that from what Professor Wang just said, AI should really be a global public good rather than a commercial product to beef up the stock market? So turning to the big picture, China has proposed the establishment of a World Artificial Intelligence Cooperation Organization. Tell us why China is proposing this.
Well, basically, we have already said enough about how powerful AI would drive the future, for sure. But I think this time the difference is that, as we just mentioned just not long ago, global south are rising. China is rising as a different, leading force in this area. Look, when we've been dominated by the mobile internet and social media, remember how things are going? It's like, okay, you are ruling this area. You have the biggest company, and you make the standard. You make the rule. Everybody only need to obey and follow. You have the Facebook, you have the Twitter, and I make the say. You just listen. Well, they want to move this kind of rule into the AI period of time, but China refused. Well, you have the open AI, and you make the rule. Everybody only need to listen and obey. No, the time has changed. Now China has AI. We have the DeepSeek. We have, all kinds of the AI modeling. And when China say we're going to open source, everybody will deserve a fair share in AI development.
Indeed, let's get some updates first. China will take over the rotating chair of APEC. The southern Chinese city of Shenzhen will host the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting next year. The city is known for its transformative development over the past 4 decades and a trailblazer of China's reform and opening up.
Right, and once a small fishing village, Shenzhen in southern China's Guangdong province is now a mega city after nearly 5 decades of growth. And the city benefits from its status as China's earliest special economic zone. It enjoys policy flexibility as a coastal city with direct land border access to the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. Shenzhen's Qianhai and Shekou pilot free trade area is making strides in promoting business and personnel development in Hong Kong and attracting foreign capital as the area strives to take the lead in driving the country's opening up. And Shenzhen has also become a hub for finance, technology and innovation. The city is now home to over 25,000 national-level high-tech enterprises, including tech giants Huawei, Tencent and DJI.
So, Mr. Chu, Shenzhen will be hosting next year's APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. Well, Professor Wang, you're quite excited about this. And give us the latest idea or sense on this mega city.
Well, Shenzhen is the hub for innovation in China. I think all of us will agree. And it has the most young people and most vibrant economic activities in China. And it also is the financial center of China's technology companies. And it has the connectivity between the mainland and Hong Kong. So Shenzhen is actually pioneering in almost everything, right? In technology and finance, in all sorts of reform. It's the first to reform when it's the reform and opening up in China 40 years ago. So I think Shenzhen is symbolic in a lot of ways that China is forwarding and it's innovating and it's connecting to the rest of the world.
And a special aspect you are looking forward to see the city can offer next year, because we've talked so much about APEC's goals for the near and even the longer future: sustainable, a better tomorrow, digital and smart empowerment, and all those beautiful scenarios.
And I think Shenzhen has another characteristic that's famous, is that it's embracing all people from all over the country, even all over the world, to come to Shenzhen, as long as you have the character, you have the endeavor, you have the talents, you have the creativity, you're welcome to Shenzhen. I think that shows how China is actually. China is welcoming all scientists, all entrepreneurs, or foreign investment, all of them into China to have this open, level ground playground for everyone.
Well, Mr. Chu, talking about APEC 2026, because President Xi kept mentioning continuity. How do you think China can carry on the momentum of APEC of all the past years into a new era? What priorities do you think China is going to take in next year's APEC?
Well, I think, Dominique, this is actually a very big question. But if you take a look at from the track record of Mr. Xi Jinping's speech in the past 5 years in the APEC, especially 2023, 2024, and this year, you'll find out that the red shred, the main line, are actually very clear. That is the new quality development forces and a new type, a new paradigm of modernization. Well, in China, we have the Chinese-style modernization, and in the ASEAN nations, I think they have their own respective ambition towards modernization as well. I think, well, I still will come back to the new quality development forces, which has also been epitomized in Shenzhen for sure. Number one is very, very new. It's a whole different growth model. For example, like I just mentioned, in the past, either you will have efficiency and money, or you will pay the price, like the health, like the gap. But in China, this new quality development force means we want both. We don't want to lose our future or our health or our social stability for the economic growth. But we find out actually you can convert two together, like we have already seen in Shenzhen and in China. So when you go green, you can have, this kind of a harmony between nature and people, but also you can build a whole new industry and a value chain and accommodate everybody to get involved, like the farmers in the rural area in China. They build a solar panel on the rooftop, they can generate the electricity to sell them, totally green, and they make money out of it. And we power up the farmers in Indonesia to help them to sell the brand products in there, totally good to use. And when you are nobody, you move to Shenzhen, and you can use a whole supply chain around that to build your own company. Mr. Wang Xinxing, you just read from the Unitary Robot, wearing a worn-out Snickers to begin with in there, and now became one of the entrepreneurs. This is the model of China.
Exactly. And let's take a closer look at the city of Shenzhen. The southern Chinese city of Shenzhen will host the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting next year, and the city has been at the center of China's reform and opening up process. Let's see how the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone has developed over the past 45 years, from a border town into a hub for the country's innovation, trade, and green development.
Shenzhen, located in the south of China's Guangdong province, is a major city of the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macau Greater Bay Area. It lies close to Hong Kong, Guangzhou, Dongguan, and Huizhou, and fishes Macau, Zhuhai, and Zhongshan across the Pearl River. In just 45 years, it has grown from a small border town into a modern international metropolis. Shenzhen opens new prospects for China's modernization and brings new opportunities to the world. In 2026, the 33rd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting will be held in Shenzhen, China. Today, the city sincerely invites the world to a shared celebration, gathering Shenzhen to shape a better future.
Welcome to Shenzhen!
Well, Mr. Chu and Ms. Wang, when was the last time you went to Shenzhen?
Well,
not lately.
We both have campus in Shenzhen.
Right.
Peking University actually was the #1 pioneered their graduate school in Shenzhen. And we, well, sorry to say that, we only started our graduate school in there just last year.
Don't need to be sorry. Well, it's been several years for me to go to Shenzhen, actually. I was there several years ago. I saw from this promo a lot of big changes indeed. It became more and more modern, or even a little futuristic to me. It's a perfect timing to host the CPEC meeting next year, because China will officially start its 15th five-year plan to make China's economy more resilient. So as we're facing a more and more unpredictable world, a more and more unpredictable global economy, how do you think China will align its 15th five-year plan with APEC momentum? Mr. Chu.
Well, I think Shenzhen actually epitomized China's, growth pattern. Shenzhen used to be a little fishery village, and everybody goes there. We call ourselves villagers because everybody are just poor. It's just Mr. Wang Xinxin, also like BYD and all these big companies right now, and even Tencent. Everybody goes there like nobody, but right now everybody becomes somebody in great companies.
That's some village.
Yes, from the little village, from fishmonger to charliemonger, this kind of experience. I think this typical China dream, a Chinese dream, because the new quality productive force is actually it's not a concept that we invented, it's a concept to grow from the soil of Shenzhen and to be bigger and amplified to all over China. And I think in a 15th five-year program, actually we promoted this idea about new quality productive forces in a 14th five-year plan, and President Xi Jinping actually mentioned this idea globally in last year's APEC Leader Meeting to telling people what is new quality productive forces, as we just discussed it with each other. And Shenzhen epitomizes this kind of trend. So in the next 5 years, I think it's an important message, not only for China, but also if you are in this whole region doing business with China, you should also understand that is because according to our advices for the next 5 years, we're going to go after what President Xi Jinping just mentioned on the APEC again this year about how we're going to go smart, intelligent, digitalization-based, green economic growth-based, and also inclusiveness-based. And that's going to be the key trend in the future. And also, like we just mentioned, China is not seeing itself as just one separate silo, but also as a key partner of the whole supply chain among all the APEC regions. So which means this spill over and influences actually have the positive influence on every partners we're going to, cooperate with. So in the next few years, we're going to see probably the Chinese low-altitude drones delivery services, going to fly across small islands in Indonesia and the Philippines, help the fishery people to get the latest and the fastest deliver parcel from the e-commerce. We're going to see the AI going to power up the education in Vietnam by sharing the education resources from Singapore to Beijing. We're going to see the green development. We're just to talk about how we can build a distributed green power station in Indonesia, in Malaysia, so that all the small islands can use the rich resources of the solar and wind overseas, offshore, to build up the huge power network, not only for the ordinary production, but also to help them to achieve their ambition in AI. They can have their own AI as well. And China, as we just mentioned, also it's like what Shenzhen used to have. It's called the technology democracy. Instead of having this kind of the Silicon Valley technology hierarchy, we're having technology democracy, which means, for example, China have AI. We're not only trying to tell them, you should follow our AI rule and morality. We're asking, well, at Indonesian users, what kind of privacy rule you want to have? Malaysian users, what kind of the AI you're looking after, and we're going to collect your wisdom, pull your effort into our framework together, because we do not want to monopolize that. We want to develop everything with everybody, enjoy the whole result with them. So that's going to be in China for sure, and also in the next 5 years, this thinking will also cover the whole region we're going to cooperate with.
Yeah, I've also just learned a lot about that city promo from Shenzhen. One striking number, 2.8 million registered business entities in one single city. That's huge. I mean, that can also partially tell the momentum of the city's innovation drive. As consumers, as average users, we usually pay much more attention to the end products, but actually innovation is a long chain. Supply and industrial chain required, very long chains required. So Shenzhen is not only one city, it's kind of leading the cluster boom of innovation in that particular area. And if we expand that area, that's the Greater Bay Area, one of the most economically vibrant regions in China. So how will that particular region be a window, be a link, be a bridge to China's opening up, high quality opening up to the whole world in the next year and ahead?
Well, that's an excellent point. Actually, for Shenzhen, I just echo what Mr. Xu just said. It's digital democracy that enables that many enterprises, that many tech startups to thrive, right? And in Shenzhen, as long as you have the good idea, as long as you are willing to do the hard work, you can find your designer, you can find your partners, you can find your tech people in probably just one day.
Yeah.
And
more importantly, you can find the parts urgently needed for your products.
From Zhongshan shipped next day. So
Yeah.
that is when you can have your sample ready in the third day and ready to go to your customer. And that's how Shenzhen's model is so important and so vibrant, and it's replicable actually. We're seeing the next Shenzhen in all over China. We see Hangzhou and we see Chengdu, and they're all rising because of the talent, because of the tech innovation. And we can see that in all over the world as well. We can see Bangkok, we can see Kuala Lumpur, we can see Singapore, and everywhere doing the same thing and innovating and connecting with each other.
So that could be quite a promising scenario for APEC's consistent theme of boosting trade and economic development through innovation. So any particular policies or measures you're looking forward to in terms of boosting new quality productive forces in the Greater Bay Area, which includes Guangdong Province, Hong Kong and Macau, as they ask?
I think there are the driving force is the greater economic connectivity between all of the regions, and we have the one big market, the national one market, and that kind of get rid of the barriers between different administrative areas, including actually Hong Kong. If you go to Hong Kong now, you can use Alipay to ride the subway, and you don't have to go through all of the currency changes and everything. And students or young people from Hong Kong can get a job very easily in the Greater Bay Area, and they can get the social security, they can get all of those social safety net and registration. Everything is equal for everyone. I think that is how these areas can continue to prosper.
And the 15th five-year plan of China actually emphasized on innovation, which is mentioned by 2025 APEC as well. Innovate, prosper and connect. Another very important point of the 15th five-year plan is green development, and also mentioned by President Xi in his three proposals as well. And as we know, APEC leaders have collectively endorsed the goal to triple renewable energy capacity by 2030 and more toward net zero emissions by mid-century. What concrete actions are we expecting to see from the APEC bloc?
Well, from the APEC bloc, actually, we've been started this initiative of going green. Well, I think it's goes in together with our initiative with the technology development. Well, on one hand, we're saying technology democracy. We want everybody to have AI. Wow, this is a very expensive promise, right? Because AI is the power guzzler. Just imagine if I would train one large language model. The electricity basically you're going to consume is one industrial city in China to consume in 1 year. And China is the largest electricity country in the whole world. Even for us, we feel this is too expensive, letting alone you train your model in Texas, in Silicon Valley. So it's impossible for the global south, smaller nations to do so when they're still suffering from time to time blackout. So how we can actually make our promise to be delivered. So the key solution is going green. It's not a moral, like I mentioned, it's not a moral high ground. It's a true promise. Because with the green technology, with the green solar power and wind power, it's free. And the more you use it, the marginal cost is getting to lower and lower, near zero. So imagine you're in Indonesia or Timor-Leste, and around you have infinite wind from the ocean and sunshine from the ocean, tide from the ocean. If you have the equipment to translate that into the power, and for the first time, you will have ample energy not only to power your daily life and production, but also for the first time, you have the chance to build your own AI. And then your internet, your digitalization and AI will contribute back into your future growth. So you don't need only plant the seaweed anymore. If for the first time you can build your AI robot robot-powered fleet and delivery services, drones, and everything to power up your home economy. And why is that? New quality development forces. It does not only mean you get faster, more efficient, and cheaper. We have oil, can do the same thing. But it means a whole different economy. With just a simple example, when you have the telephone, it's not new quality development forces. But when you have smartphone, it's more than a phone. You can have live streaming, e-commerce, every new thing is going to happen. So young people don't need to plant the seaweed anymore under the sunshine, but they can go, e-commerce, foreign trade, AI building, and they can be an artist and, online service providers. So this is the new quality productive forces we're talking about, but they can only happen with a good environment, with infinite, affordable power, and with also a new business model, a new, business ecology we're talking about. So I think that's a reason why we're promising about green development, not only because we are tackling down the climate change, but also we want to create a new elevated economic opportunity for the future generation of young people.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
The trend is good, and I think the ambition is quite big there. But we have to face a problem of striking a balance between promoting green development in this bloc, especially with developed countries and developing countries at the same bloc, and also the need for growth. In some traditional industries, we still need traditional energy. So how to strike that balance, Ms. Wang?
Well, the balance lies in one of the pillars, actually, of this APEC meeting is innovate. So there is the only way to transform the traditional industry to green is through innovation, through technology. And we see that in China, actually, when Chinese government is pushing the environmental law, we see that companies, actually, they're growing in their green patents, which means they are doing all they can. They're putting a lot of money in R&D, and they are creating these green devices, these new equipments that they can produce the same amount of goods with bigger efficiency, also with less pollutants, and also filtering all of the pollutants so the water is clean, the air is clean. So with that, we can balance between also going green and also enhance productivity. But innovation is costly. So China is leading it, and some of the countries are leading it, and China is committed to share the results of China's green development to the other country, like, for example, exporting the solar panels at a very competitive price so that they can making this technology affordable.
And we'll be getting back to you for more insights on this. Our coverage continues. China Media Group spoke to Edward Pedrosa, Executive Director of the APEC Secretariat, about his expectations for China's APEC rotating chairmanship in 2026.
We're looking for more openness, a focus on innovation, and on cooperation as well. Connectivity has been something that China has focused on over the past 10 years at least, building throughout its rail network, as I mentioned. Are there lessons that can be learned through their own domestic processes as well? And then again, talking about trade, how has China trade changed over the past few years? What is China exporting now compared to the 25 years ago? All of our economies go through changes, so it'll be interesting to hear through the next plan and through the APEC hosting, what we can learn from that.
And speaking with CGTN, Dr. David Morris, a former Australian diplomat and vice chair of the UN Asia-Pacific Sustainable Business Network, voiced his high expectations for next year's APEC meeting in China.
China will be hosting APEC in 2026. What do you hope to see in that meeting, and how do you think Australia can contribute to its success?
I think next year will be a very consequential year. For China to host APEC is very important at a time when there is such instability in the world. And so China will be able to demonstrate its confidence in the multilateral system. We really need the multilateral system, the APEC framework, but also the other free trade agreements that overlap in the Asian region, and that's a good thing. We have overlapping agreements that embed openness, that embed free trade in this region. And so for China to be committed to those principles and to help to sustain those principles through this difficult time is going to be very important for the region and for the world.
Southeast Asia is speeding up an electric vehicle revolution, but skilled EV talent is in short supply. Chinese automakers have partnered with local universities and training centers in Thailand to cultivate the next generation of engineers and technicians. The country hopes to become the region's EV hub and a leader in green mobility. Dusita Sagao reports.
It's 4:30 a.m. and 19-year-old Gritapad Yensabai is already out the door. He waits for a bus that will take him across the province. It's a grueling 2-hour journey he makes every weekday to learn skills and build a future that could one day take him far beyond the province's borders. Each day he walks the same path, past the rows of food stalls and into the gates of Eastern Technical College in Chonburi. It's a daily routine that reflects a broader shift as young Thais train for jobs in an auto industry increasingly powered by electricity.
At first I thought it was tough having to wake up early to study. I felt exhausted, but now I actually want to study. I want to introduce new technologies to my country and them to electric vehicles, as most people still don't understand them. I want the industry to develop even further.
And for him, this is where it starts, the Thailand-China Cooperation Center for Vocational Education. When Chinese EV manufacturers signed memoranda of understanding with their vocational college, dreams became tangible. The center blends classroom learning with real-world training, offering students exchange programs and scholarships, preparing the next generation to power Thailand's electric future.
Our programs to China, the manufacturers themselves came to teach us, from the battery production factory to the car assembly plant. We gain new know-how and also new teaching materials and methods. Most of our teaching material is in Chinese. We translate it to teach our students.
The agreement wasn't just a handshake. It came with new tools, new training modules, and the promise of internships, real ones, as Chinese EV brands rapidly expanded their production bases on the eastern seaboard.
On the streets of the capital, China's EV dominance is hard to miss. Thailand is Southeast Asia's largest EV market, led by Chinese automakers, accounting for more than 70% of EV sales this year. Backed by generous incentives, tax cuts, and growing cooperation under China's Belt and Road Initiative, Thailand's transformation from traditional auto hub to EV manufacturing powerhouse has been profound.
But technology alone won't drive Thailand's future. It will be shaped quietly, steadily by students like Gritapad. Young Thais who grew up far from the factories and boardrooms are now finding themselves at the edge of a new industry. Dusita Sagao, CGTN, Chonburi, Thailand.
Well, the two-day Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Economic Leaders Meeting has officially concluded. Leaders and senior officials of the APEC member economies have taken a group photo with the host of this year's APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in Gyeongju. And the theme of this year's APEC meeting is building a sustainable tomorrow, centered on 3 pillars: connect, innovate, and prosper. China will take over the rotating chair of APEC. The southern Chinese city of Shenzhen, as we mentioned, will host the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting next year.
A big occasion for China and also the Asia-Pacific region coming up next year. And yes, as just mentioned in the handover ceremony at the conclusion of this year's APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, the southern Chinese city of Shenzhen will host next year's APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in November. So continue to focus on President Xi Jinping's three proposals from the day 2 of the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. We've talked about digital and smart empowerment. We've talked about green transition. Now, what about the inclusive growth of the Asia-Pacific? Earlier, we were talking about the structural change of populations in nearly all the economies, and we noticed that one of the outcomes of this year's APEC gathering is a framework cooperation document regarding the population structural change. What specific coordinated actions are you looking forward to, Mr. Chu?
Well, I think for the inclusive development, actually, it's just not one man's battle. It's not one country's battle. It's a whole human being's battle. We're one community with a shared fate. Well, if you are solving this problem alone, probably you're going to miss a lot of opportunities. But with a whole framework to design together, actually, we can make the things bigger. Like I just mentioned, you give them an opportunity, they return you a miracle. We've been doing that actually for the past 15 years. Actually, we've been setting up this kind of a cooperation partnership with many APEC nations in the past 15 years. Personally, I've been participating in many of them. For example, we have Agriculture Technology Center with Myanmar. Even when they are being troubled by the domestic war, we go there to help to teach their farmers to build the rices and the rubber trees. And we have the demonstration centers in the Papua New Guinea, and we have the centers cooperating with Vietnam, with Bangladesh for sure, and also with the Cambodia and Laos. We find out this international effort will actually change the whole scenario. Well, talking about, for example, everybody knows the China and Laos railway, right? This is quite something. Turn a landlocked economy into a land hub economy. But you don't know is that even 10 years ago, we've been helping the local farmers to build the capacities to grow the crops, agricultural products, and build all this kind of infrastructure like the irrigation. We're not talking about the high-speed rail infrastructure. We're talking about the road, the cement road, electricity, internet, water supply, irrigation in the first place. So when everybody started to build the railway, when they come here, they're not facing the jungles. They're facing villages, internet, water supply, so they can have this ground zero to build things on it. So you see the spillover effect and this gradual growth by this kind of a framework of inclusive development. Without our cooperation on the agriculture, irrigation, and the basic roads and internet, we wouldn't have the China-Laos high-speed rail to happen in the first place. Similar situation happens with, the Jakarta to Bandung high-speed rail. The people used to travel like 4 hours between the two cities. Well, now they only spend 40 minutes. So what happened in there as well? Because 10 years ago, we have the similar kind of cooperation project going on as well. So this is kind of the inclusive development we're talking about in the future.
An ongoing momentum. Now, China will take over the rotating chair of APEC. The southern Chinese city of Shenzhen will host the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting next year. The city is known for its transformative development over the past 4 decades and as a trailblazer of China's reform and opening up.
And so we will now begin the handover ceremony. Now, I hand the floor to President Xi Jinping of the PRC, the incoming APEC chair, for his remarks.
China has chosen Shenzhen of Guangdong province as the venue for the 33rd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in November next year.
Shenzhen, located in the south of China's Guangdong province, is a major city of the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macau Greater Bay Area. It lies close to Hong Kong, Guangzhou, Dongguan, and Huizhou. It fishes Macau, Zhuhai, and Zhongshan across the Pearl River. In just 45 years, it has grown from a small border town into a modern international metropolis. Shenzhen opens new prospects for China's modernization and brings new opportunities to the world. In 2026, the 33rd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting will be held in Shenzhen, China. Today, the city sincerely invites the world to a shared celebration, gathering Shenzhen to shape a better future.
Welcome to Shenzhen!
China Media Group spoke to Eduardo Pedrosa, Executive Director of the APEC Secretariat, about his expectations for China's APEC chairmanship in 2026.
We're looking for more openness, a focus on innovation, and on cooperation as well. Connectivity has been something that China has focused on over the past 10 years at least, building throughout its rail network, as I mentioned. Are there lessons that can be learned through their own domestic processes as well? And then again, talking about trade, how has China trade changed over the past few years? What is China exporting now compared to the 25 years ago? All of our economies go through changes, so it'll be interesting to hear through the next plan and through the APEC hosting, what we can learn from that.
And speaking with CGTN, Dr. David Morris, a former Australian diplomat and vice chair of the UN Asia-Pacific Sustainable Business Network, voiced his high expectations for next year's APEC meeting in China.
China will be hosting APEC in 2026. What do you hope to see in that meeting, and how do you think Australia can contribute to its success?
I think next year will be a very consequential year. For China to host APEC is very important at a time when there is such instability in the world. And so China will be able to demonstrate its confidence in the multilateral system. We really need the multilateral system, the APEC framework, but also the other free trade agreements that overlap in the Asian region, and that's a good thing. We have overlapping agreements that embed openness, that embed free trade in this region. And so for China to be committed to those principles and to help to sustain those principles through this difficult time is going to be very important for the region and for the world.
Well, that's all for our special coverage on the 32nd APEC Economic Leaders Meeting for now, and we'll keep you updated on the further development of the event. I'm Li Dongning in Beijing.
And I'm Pan Zheng. We'll see you at the top of the hour.